Chapter 712. After making arrangements with the disciples, Lin Feng smiled and said, "Speaking of which, there is a local tyrant on our mountain when we go to the East Sea this time." With a thought, he sent out a divine sense. The next moment, Kuei Ox King turned into a high-spirited man and appeared in front of everyone. When Xiao Yan and others saw this, they were all enlightened. The Kuei Ox tribe living in the Sky Valley of Yujing Mountain was subdued by Lin Feng in Kunlun Mountain, but they did not live in Kunlun Mountain all the time. They came from Liubo Mountain, which was 7,000 miles away from Donghai. Headed by Kuei Ox King, these Kuei Ox tribe used to listen to a powerful figure in the spirit realm called Tao Master Liubo on Liubo Mountain, and then they cultivated according to their tribe's talent. The Kuei Ox tribe valued kindness, so they regarded Tao Master Liubo as their master. Later, Tao Master Liubo traveled to Kunlun Mountain, and the Kuei Ox tribe followed him away from Donghai and went to the westernmost inland. Unfortunately, Tao Master Liubo lost contact with them later, and these Kuei Ox tribes stayed in Kunlun Mountain to guard the sorrow tree seedlings planted there until they met Lin Feng. After the Kuei Ox King arrived, he first saluted Lin Feng, then he greeted Xiao Yan and the others one by one. After listening to Lin Feng's instructions, he laughed heartily saying, "Sect leader is understanding of this old ox is extremely grateful." Xiao Yan said with a smile, "They are old horses that know the way, but we are old oxen that know the way." Everyone started laughing together. The Kuei Ox King looked towards Lin Feng, begging, "Sect leader, I've experienced a lot of time. Even though I've left the East Sea these years, I can still endure the longing in my heart. On the other hand, there are many young juniors in the tribe who are somewhat homesick. I wonder if I can bring them along on this trip. When we arrive at Donghai, let them go and play by themselves. Don't let them entering sea. I promise they won't ruin your plan." Lin Feng smiled. "There's no need to be so nervous. There should still be some time before the three mountains appear. Unless they're far ahead of schedule this time, we'll just be making preparations. Go and choose the disciples of your clan to accompany us. If something really happens, I can just roll up my sleeve and take all of you away. There won't be any problems." The one-legged bull king was overjoyed. "Thank you for your magnanimity, sect master." Lin Feng's divine sense moved again. Very soon, Jia Yu and White Light husband and wife, two people, also arrived in front of him. Seeing Lin Feng, White Light was somewhat embarrassed. Jia Yu was also rather embarrassed, not knowing where to put his pair of large hands. "As I said before, when you break through the bottleneck and reach the late-stage Demon King realm, I have an errand for you and your wife." Lin Feng didn't mention anything about what had happened before, as if he didn't know anything at all. He said, "Now that the time is ripe, come with me." Jia Yu and White Light looked at each other, then Jia Yu bowed and said, "I will obey sect master's decree." White Light was rather hesitant and asked softly, "Can this junior participate as well?" She was not intentionally going against Lin Feng's intentions. These few years on the mountain, she had received Xianmen Tianzong's care. Her husband Jia Yu was even single-handedly brought up by Lin Feng, charging from late-stage demon commander to late-stage demon king in one fell swoop within a short time. In White Light's heart, she was very grateful towards Lin Feng. It was also precisely because of this that she was rather hesitant instead. After all, strictly speaking, Jia Yu had completely separated herself from Taishu Temple and devoted herself to Xianmen Tianzong, while she still belonged to Taishu Temple's Dragon Pool. If the errand Lin Feng instructed her next involved Xianmen Tianzong's internal secrets, then it was best for her to avoid arousing suspicion. Lin Feng smiled faintly, "No matter. It's said to be an errand, but actually, it might also be a fortuitous encounter for you and your wife. Naturally, to me, Xianmen Tianzong, it also has boundless benefits." Since Lin Feng himself said so, White Light immediately cupped her fists and bowed. This junior obeys and listens to senior's instructions. Lin Feng nodded. Yingxi's three mountains are about to come into being. This seat will bring my disciples and sect members to head to the East Sea first to familiarize themselves with the environment in advance. You and your wife, follow along then. After Jiayu and White Light heard that, their faces both revealed a thoughtful expression, bowing together and agreeing. Lin Feng then turned to look at Xiao Yan and said with a smile, Miss Shen has yet to leave the mountain. If you intend to travel together, it's also fine. When Xiao Yan heard that, he revealed a smile on his face. Thank you, master. Since that's the case, after settling your respective matters, we'll set off right away. As Lin Feng spoke, a crack suddenly appeared in the void in front of him. Miao Shihao walked out from within and said with a smile, Oh, sect master, I knew it. How can you ignore such a big matter like the Yingxi's 3 mountains coming into being? He turned to look at Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Jiayu, and the others, sighing, although there are others accompanying us, it's fine. It won't hinder me from touring the East Sea with you, sect master. Xiao Yan and the others all shuddered involuntarily, turning their gazes elsewhere one after another, as if afraid that Miao Shihao's interest would shift from Lin Feng to them. Lin Feng's expression did not change. Shihao, your heaven and earth avatar has just been formed. Stay on Jade Capital Mountain and continue nurturing your magic power. Whatever you're looking for, we'll just bring it back for you when we head to Yingxi this time. Miao Shihao smiled coquettishly and shook his head. How can I do that? I definitely can't miss such an interesting event. Even if I can't find anything, as long as I can tour the East Sea with you, sect master, this trip won't be in vain. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and said in an intoxicated manner, Sect master, think about it, the blue waves, the bright moon on the sea, the fresh sea breeze. Hiss, just thinking about it makes one feel extremely happy. The group of people's mouths twitched as they laughed dryly and nodded. Ha, that's right, Lin Feng's expression was calm. Are you sure you want to go? Miao Shihao nodded. Of course. You're fickle, always saying one thing and doing another. You'll change your plans the next moment, Lin Feng said indifferently. Miao Shihao patted his chest. That's on other matters. I've made up my mind to go to the East Sea this time, and I definitely won't change it. As the sect's guardian, how can I be idle all day? The emergence of the Yingxi's 3 mountains is a major event that can almost change the situation of the human cultivation world in the Divine Land. The sect can't just stand by and watch. I also have the intention to contribute to the sect in this matter. Sect master, don't worry. Since I said I want to go, I'll naturally go. Hearing Miao Shihao's high-sounding words, Xiao Yan and the rest rolled their eyes. TSK. Oh, I see, Lin Feng nodded and said indifferently, I'm very pleased that you have such intentions, Shihao. You're experienced and knowledgeable. With you going along, it'll be a great help. I can also be at ease. Miao Shihao covered his lips and smiled coquettishly. Aya, sect master, you finally know. Before he could finish his sentence, Miao Shihao was suddenly stunned. The void beside Lin Feng's main body suddenly broke open, and a tall, bronze-skinned, purple-clothed young man walked out and stopped beside Lin Feng. The bronze-skinned, purple-clothed young man's facial features were very different from Lin Feng's. Even his temperament was different. However, his dermic powers and aura were of the same origin. It was just that the purple-clothed young man had some other dermic powers and intents. It belonged to the Shura iron tree, the eternal and indestructible power intent. It was Lin Feng's iron tree clone. After many years of hard cultivation in the mysterious Heaven-Time Light Grotto Heaven, the iron tree clone had reached the late-stage Yuanying realm and was only a step away from becoming an essence soul. Miao Shihao had a faint ominous premonition. Then, he heard Lin Feng say casually, my main body won't go to the East Sea this time. I still have some things to do on Yujing Mountain. If there's no need, my main body won't go there. So this time, my iron tree clone will go with you to the East Sea and explore the secrets of the Yingxi. With that, Lin Feng nodded at everyone and his main body disappeared on the spot. Xianli, who was carrying the sword case, also disappeared expressionlessly. The iron tree clone said nonchalantly, everyone, go and prepare yourselves. We'll set off in a day. Miao Shihao stood where he was, dumbfounded. His eyes moved slightly, and after staring at the iron tree clone for a long time, he finally squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. Sect Master, can't you leave your clone on the mountain to do things while your main body goes to the East Sea? Lin Feng's iron tree clone smiled. Is there a problem? Our minds and consciousness are interconnected. Miao Shihao felt lost. No problem, no problem. He glanced at the iron tree clone again and muttered softly, of course there's a problem. There's a big problem. He's not the type that Brother Shihao likes. Although I also know that our minds and consciousness are interconnected, it feels awkward no matter how I look at it. Sect Master, I suddenly feel that my spiritual power is a little unstable. I want to stay on the mountain to cultivate. Miao Shihao said tentatively. He saw Lin Feng looking at him calmly while Xiao Yan and the rest beside him burst out laughing. Miao Shihao instantly looked like an eggplant that had been hit by frost. He looked up at the sky and sighed. Forget it, forget it. I'll make do with it. Looking at Miao Shihao's somewhat disappointed back view as he left, Xiao Yan and the rest wanted to laugh but did not dare to. All of them had a hard time holding it in. Shi Tianhao asked curiously, Master, how did you know that Mr. Miao, doesn't like your iron tree clone? Doesn't Mr. Miao always like the brave and masculine type? Logically speaking, your iron tree clone fits the criteria. After spending so much time with Miao Shihao, everyone was used to his special hobbies. Lin Feng smiled and pointed at Li Yuanfang. In the years that Shihao has been cultivating in seclusion, he has occasionally come out of seclusion and seen Yuanfang. He once said that Yuanfang does not meet his standards of beauty. Li Yuanfang's tanned face was usually calm and serious, but at this moment, he was also rather embarrassed. He smiled bitterly and said, this disciple is really glad. Lin Feng smiled and said, what do you guys think about this master's iron tree clone similar to Yuanfang? Shi Tianhao suddenly understood. Skin color, they both have dark skin like bronze. So that's how it is. So Mr. Miao likes people with fair skin. Everyone shook their heads and laughed. Xiao Yan rubbed his chin and said with a chuckle, Master, why don't you change your original body to this skin color as well? Lin Feng flicked him on the forehead. That's useless. He's proficient in illusions. He'll see through the skin color we change into. After laughing and joking around, everyone went back to make preparations. After everything was settled, Lin Feng's iron tree clone led them on the journey to the east. The first stop of this journey was the capital of the great Zhou dynasty, Tianjin City. Su Yunxing followed beside Zhu Yi and thought to himself, I wonder what founding master and master will do. He said to Zhu Yi, Master, I'm afraid of arousing the suspicions of the great Zhou dynasty, so I don't dare to act rashly. Now, I don't even know where little sister is, and I don't have any clues on hand. I don't know where to start looking. Zhu Yi put his hands behind his back and said calmly, there's no need to look in secret. We can just go and ask for her openly. We're not in the wrong. Chapter 713. Just go to their door and ask for her. Zhu Yi's expression was calm. His words were simple, and his tone was matter-of-fact. Su Yunxing was slightly speechless. After a while, he shook his head and laughed. He was a steady and thorough person, but because of the environment he grew up in, it was inevitable that his thoughts were a little heavy. Although he was meticulous in his thinking, it appeared that he was not magnanimous enough. So according to his own thinking, he was still thinking about finding a way to rescue his sister. For a moment, he forgot that his ancestral master and master were never overcautious people. Lin Feng does indeed like to plan before taking action, considering all possible factors in all aspects. But once he has made up his mind on something he never hesitates, doing what he says he will do. Zhu Yi followed the path of a gentleman. He knew of underhanded tricks, but he had no interest in using them. He did things in an open and aboveboard manner. It was extremely difficult for him to handle Su Yunxing's matter himself. As a spy of the Great Zhou dynasty, he wanted to break free from the control of the Great Zhou dynasty in exchange for his sister. Even if he had countless precious items that the Great Zhou dynasty needed, there was almost no room for him to manipulate them. He could only be controlled by others. However, it was different for Lin Feng and Zhu Yi. To the current Xianmen Tianzong, a second-generation disciple's family was kidnapped, so he directly went to their door to ask for her back. This was what Zhu Yi said, and so he did. When they arrived at Tianjing City, they moved into the side courtyard he bought outside the city. After settling down, he immediately sent the steward of the manor to send a letter to the Great Zhou dynasty's crown prince, Liang Yuan, inviting him to the side courtyard. The signature was Xianmen Tianzong, perfected Lord Xuani, Zhu Yi. It meant that he was not inviting the Eastern Palace crown prince as an official, but was inviting him as a cultivator with an identity in the cultivation world. When Liang Yuan received the invitation, he was still a little confused. However, when he found out that Zhu Yi had only brought one disciple, Su Yunsheng, to the Great Zhou dynasty, his heart skipped a beat. He understood that the banquet was not going to be a good one, but he could not refuse it. That would make him look guilty, so he braced himself and went to the banquet. After a simple greeting, Zhu Yi went straight to the point and said, "My disciple, Su Yunsheng, has a younger sister, Su Miaoying. She has been taken care of by the Great Zhou dynasty for many years. I'm here today to pick her up and reunite them. I'm sure fellow Taoist will be happy to fulfill such a joyous occasion." Liang Yuan looked up at Su Yunsheng and did not speak. The expressions of the Great Zhou cultivators who came with him changed slightly. Su Yunsheng felt a little uneasy. Will I implicate too many people for my own matter? After all, the person in charge of this matter on the Great Zhou dynasty's side is Crown Prince Liang Yuan. Even though he was going to be punished with hard labor in 10 years, Su Yunsheng was still filled with love and respect for his sect. He even felt a little guilty and worried. He felt that it was because of him that there was a conflict between Xianmen Tianzong and the Great Zhou dynasty. It would not be good for the sect. Liang Yuan looked at Zhu Yi calmly. There must be a misunderstanding, right? From what I know, perfected Lord Xuani's disciple is a member of the Great Qin dynasty, and the Great Qin and the Great Zhou dynasty have never been on good terms. Although we are on the same side now, there are still many disputes between the Great Zhou dynasty and the Great Qin dynasty. In other words, he did not admit that it was the Great Qin dynasty who sowed discord between the two sects and sent Su Yunsheng to frame them. Liang Yuan looked at Zhu Yi with a slightly strange gaze. He did not expect that after Su Yunsheng was exposed, Zhu Yi and Xianmen Tianzong's reaction was not to get rid of the spy but to come to him for Su Yunsheng instead. On the other hand, Liang Yuan felt that it was a pity. It seemed that there was no hope for Su Yunsheng anymore. Hearing that, Zhu Yi's expression did not change. He raised his right hand and gently knocked on his forehead. Fellow Taoist, do you not know? A beam of light shot out from his forehead and turned into a cloud in the hall. As the cloud rolled, the sound of people talking could be heard. How can you become the first seat's disciple? How confident are you? The most important thing is your daily performance in the past. Apart from that, the sect's internal competition is also an important point. Apart from sparring with fellow disciples, you will also have to spar with the young talents of other factions. I believe that my master and the others will observe the entire process and consider it. The one with the best performance will stand out. Just do your best to prepare and display your full strength. You don't have to worry about anything else. We will arrange for you to spar with the young talents of the Great Zhou dynasty and other factions. We will definitely help you ascend to the position of the first seat's disciple of your branch. The rest is up to you. One of the voices was naturally Su Yunsheng. The other person's identity was very clear from the content of the conversation. Liang Yuan frowned slightly. When the conversation had happened, he had been there the entire time, so he naturally knew the content of the conversation. Looking at it now, Su Yunsheng had already been exposed at that time or even earlier. Zhu Yi had secretly left a dermic imprint on him. Normally, it would not be revealed, but whenever Su Yunxing used a voice transmission crystal or a magic tool to communicate with someone, Zhu Yi's dermic imprint would immediately react and intercept the content of the conversation and save it. Zhu Yi's gaze swept across the cultivators behind Liang Yuan and finally landed on the cultivator with the surname Xiao. The aura of his dermic power is somewhat similar to this fellow cultivator. The Yuanying ancestor with the surname Xiao had a gloomy face and did not say anything. If he really revealed his dermic power to verify it, this matter could not be faked. Zhu Yi faintly smiled. Fellow Liang Yuan seems to not know about this. Then this fellow did it privately. It's not a big matter and it doesn't matter whether you report it or not. But now that I've come to your door, are you still not going to explain this matter to fellow Liang Yuan? If you still don't report it now, then you're purposely putting your master in a passive position. You deserve to be punished. Zhu Yi's tone was calm but his words were like knives, each sentence piercing the heart. Su Yunxing watched from the side. At this moment, he seemed to have understood something. Unless master kills Liang Yuan later, this matter will not cause a full-scale conflict between our sect and the great Zhou dynasty. Even ancestor, Emperor Zhou Liangpan, and even the Marquis of Xuanji will not get involved. Lin Feng's metal tree clone and Xiao Yan and the others were currently resting in the wing room behind this courtyard. Lin Feng had no intentions of paying attention to them, because their level was too low. In Xianmen Tianzong, even though Su Yunsheng was one of the best amongst the direct disciples, he was still a young disciple. In the great Zhou dynasty, he was just a spy who had already been exposed. It was impossible for them to fall out with Xianmen Tianzong just for a person like this. By the same logic, if Liang Yuan was really stubborn, then as long as he didn't court death himself, Zhu Yi would not make an example out of him. But even without much, getting rid of a Yuanying ancestor under Liang Yuan was enough to make Liang Yuan vomit blood. A spy who had already been exposed and could no longer be of use, or a Yuanying stage cultivator. There was no need to choose which was more important. When it came to spying, then there was no need to mention the problem of face. So in this matter, Lin Feng actually would not get involved at all. It was fine if he knew about this, how to deal with it would be left to Zhu Yi. At most, he would listen to Zhu Yi's final report. Similarly, it was impossible for the great Zhou Crown Prince Liang Yuan to hand this matter over to Emperor Zhou Liangpan. Other than showing his own incompetence, there was no meaning. As long as the matter did not become too big, Liangpan would not get involved at all. After Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others gradually grew up, Lin Feng left most of the matters to them to decide and deal with. If they took advantage, then they would work harder next time. If they suffered a loss, then they would sum up the experience and lesson, then go and get back at them. Just like when the reincarnation sect's heavenly axiom had a conflict with Zhu Yi, Su Yunsheng, and Ing Luoza in the Kunlun mountain range, even if Lin Feng knew, he did not take it to heart. He had to care about everything, no matter how big or small. That was not caring for his disciples, that was being bored out of his mind. In reality, if Shen Qifeng's attitude had not aroused Lin Feng's curiosity, even if it was Shen Qifeng, Lin Feng would have handed him over to Zhu Yi to deal with. He would not have shown himself at all. For the current Lin Feng, only big shots like Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu could attract his attention. And he and Liang Pan had the same focus. They were all about the overall situation of Xianmen Tianzong and the great Zhou dynasty. The problems of one of their subordinates would naturally be solved by their subordinates. Whether it was Xianmen Tianzong or the great Zhou dynasty, they were all super forces that played an important role in the divine land. If the two clashed, it would definitely be a large-scale, drawn-out war. It was enough to change the power structure of the divine land. This kind of dispute was not only between the celestial sect of wonders and the great Zhou dynasty. The Great Void Temple, the Mount Shu Sword sect, the Great Qin dynasty, the Reincarnation sect, the Purple Sky Dao sect, the Heavenly Sword sect, the Northern Militant Imperial Court and other powers would all take action for their own plans. The Demon Realm and Tianhuang vast land would also pay close attention. After understanding these things, Su Yunqing's heart immediately relaxed. He smiled and thought to himself, I'm too frivolous. A small matter like mine would not cause such a big commotion. At this time, Zhu Yi's voice suddenly sounded from the bottom of his heart. You care about the sect, this can't be considered wrong, you don't have to worry. Ever since the ancestral master opened the mountain, our sect was established. We have always followed a principle: anyone who enters my celestial sect of wonders will have justice. If Liang Yuan is really unwise and causes the conflict to escalate to an uncontrollable state, the sect will not be afraid. If you want to fight, we will fight. Su Yunxing nodded heavily. Disciple understands. On the other side, the cultivator surnamed Xiao's face alternated between red and white. After a while, he sighed, Your Highness, this matter was planned by me. This has caused the great Zhou dynasty to lose face. Please punish me. Before Liang Yuan could speak, Zhu Yi said calmly, These can be dealt with later. Send my disciple's sister here first. The separation of flesh and blood is a tragedy in the human world. I believe that fellow Taoists can't bear to see it happen. The cultivator surnamed Xiao's lips moved. That girl is not in Tianjing City right now. Zhu Yi looked at him and said casually, I am here having a banquet with fellow Taoist Liang Yuan. You can go and pick her up now. The cultivator surnamed Xiao was immediately stunned. Zhu Yi's meaning could not be clearer. If I come to ask for her, you hand her over. I don't care where you find her. Hand her over to me in one piece and we can part ways on good terms. If you don't hand her over, you don't need to leave either. Chapter 7:14. That Yuanying ancestor Xiao's expression was the same as usual, but his thoughts fluctuated. In the past, in the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, the son of a concubine mortal who was insignificant like dust, could now order him around and he couldn't do anything about it. This kind of feeling really made him feel extremely stifled. Even if he knew that Zhu Yi was not what he used to be, and was far from the troubled young man in the past, even if he had done psychological construction early and adjusted his own psychological position, the Yuanying stage grand ancestor still felt that his Tao heart was unstable at this time. Zhu Hongwu's mentality did not change in the slightest when facing Zhu Yi. This was because Zhu Hongwu's current strength still crushed Zhu Yi's personal strength, so he could still hold the upper hand mentally. This Yuanying ancestor Xiao could not do this. As a confidant of Liang Yuan, he clearly knew that Zhu Yi had killed a late Yuanying expert when he was at the late stage of the golden elixir. Now that Zhu Yi was already at the middle stage of the Yuanying, there was naturally no need to mention him. But the more it was like this, the more unresigned feeling rose in the heart of the cultivator surnamed Xiao, a feeling of being threatened. If I had known earlier, I would have gotten rid of this vile spawn as well. If it was a few years ago, it would have been impossible for him to have such regretful thoughts. But now, not only did this thought take root and sprout, it even grew into a towering tree, occupying his mind. Although he had already stabilized his aura as much as possible, when this thought resurfaced, the fluctuations of magic power on the cultivator surnamed Xiao's body became slightly chaotic. With this fluctuation, Zhu Yi's eyelids rolled, light shooting out in all directions, his gaze instantly looking over. After all, the other was a Yuanying cultivator. He was unable to see through the other's true thoughts, but he could clearly feel the hostility. Within the hostility, there was even a trace of killing intent. Under Lin Feng's tutelage, Wang Lin used the yellow spring true water to purify his spirit soul, while Zhu Yi used the qi of literary splendor to light up the fire of wisdom, causing his spirit soul to be reborn. They were the two with the strongest spirit, but they were also different. The strength of Wang Lin's soul lay in its tenacity and impenetrability, whereas the strength of Zhu Yi's soul lay in its incomparable agility. It was like a bright mirror that was untainted by even a speck of dust, and he was able to clearly observe the slightest movement of the enemy. Liang Yuan also felt it, and his expression changed slightly. Before he could make his next move, Zhu Yi had already moved. Zhu Yi didn't make any big movements. He only breathed lightly, but this breath instantly stirred up the space in the hall. The white mist condensed into a solid form, transforming into a fish-scale-shaped cloud, which was 3 to 4 acres in radius. The space in the hall where everyone was in was already chaotic, the cloud floating in the hall only took up about half of the space. On top of this fish scale-shaped cloud appeared a huge beast that looked like several elephants fused together. Its body was covered in pitch-black scales, and it had the head of a dragon, the body of an elk, the tail of an ox, and the hooves of a horse. It was the sacred beast, the Qilin. As soon as the Qilin appeared, a majestic, righteous, and dignified aura of morality spread out, suppressing everyone's expression. Apart from Liang Yuan himself, everyone else felt that the circulation of their magic power was not smooth. When they were stared at by the Qilin's large eyes, they immediately felt as if the Qilin had seen through everything in their hearts. Their good and evil thoughts were all exposed, and they had no secrets to speak of. To the Yuanying stage cultivators, this was undoubtedly a great humiliation, causing them to fly into a rage out of humiliation. However, the Qilin formed from Zhu Yi's magic power was dignified and heavy, faintly containing an incomparably profound and vast power, causing everyone to not dare to act blindly without thinking. The Qilin was a virtuous beast, and although it didn't specialize in killing, it had boundless majesty and magical powers, and could easily suppress evil and thieves. The others were only affected by the shockwaves, but the cultivator surnamed Xiao was the true target of Zhu Yi's Qilin technique. He immediately felt as if his soul was being suppressed, unable to move. In his great shock, a clear light flashed above his head and the Yuanying directly left his body, turning into a 7- or 8-year-old child. He shouted in midair, "Open!" As he shouted, the void shook and turned into a small world, but it wasn't used to counterattack Zhu Yi. Instead, it decisively wrapped around his body to protect him. The surging magic power turned into layers of dark green gas, and the dark green small world wrapped around the cultivator surnamed Xiao, wanting to escape into the void. Zhu Yi's expression didn't change, but his eyes flickered slightly. Oh! This escape technique is quite exquisite. In the entire world, it can be considered to be at the peak level. It's a pity that you haven't practiced it to perfection, or rather, the inheritance of this escape technique you obtained is incomplete. However, even if you obtained the complete escape technique and cultivated it to the peak, the chance of escaping from my hands is less than 10%. As he spoke, Zhu Yi's magic power transformed into a Qilin claw waved, piercing through the void and grabbing the green light formed by the dark green small world. A huge force pressed down, and the dark green small world cracked like an egg, looking as if it would shatter at any moment. Liang Yuan sighed and stood up from his seat. Boundless power spread out, and a huge figure faintly appeared behind him. Zhu Yi's expression didn't change. He smiled and nodded. The Grand Emperor's scripture lives up to its reputation. Although he said that, he didn't relax his grip. The dark green small world under the Qilin claw completely shattered, turning into strands of green light that floated in the air. Liang Yuan didn't really make a move, he didn't even look at Zhu Yi. Instead, he said to the cultivator surnamed Xiao who was in imminent danger under the Qilin claw, "Go and bring him over, a blood reunion is also a joyous matter." The cultivator surnamed Xiao smiled bitterly and nodded. With a thought from Zhu Yi, the Qilin claw slapped his Yuanying back into his body. It's naturally for the best that fellow Liang Yuan has such thoughts. Zhu Yi still sat on the chair without moving. The Qilin and fish scale cloud formed by his magic power disappeared. The space in the hall also returned to normal. His gaze landed on that cultivator surnamed Xiao at this time, not mentioning that you have killing intent towards me, that thought faintly reveals a feeling of already knowing me. Moreover, it even carries a bit of contempt. This kind of emotional change, you should have already known of my existence when I was still living in the house of the Marquis of Xuanji before I became your disciple. Who are you? After a moment of silence, the cultivator surnamed Xiao straightened his back and slowly said, "East Heaven Gate, Xiao Peng, greets Xuani True Lord." Zhu Yi nodded his head, "Surnamed Xiao, so that's how it is. Madame Xiao may be a mortal but she is indeed from a cultivator family. This means that she is also not a simple mortal, she should be hiding some secrets." He suddenly smiled, "But there's no difference. In the future when I return to the house of the Marquis, it's the same." Xiao Peng was expressionless and didn't speak. After bowing towards Crown Prince Liang Yuan, he disappeared into the void. This time Zhu Yi didn't stop him because Xiao Peng clearly showed that he was going to bring Su Miaoying over. Before Zhu Yi's words and actions all clearly expressed one meaning. Either bring Su Miaoying over or you, Xiao Peng, leave your own life behind. If he ran now, it's the same as trapping his master Crown Prince Liang Yuan here. Then he wouldn't be able to stay in the great Zhou dynasty anymore. How could Xiao Peng do this for Su Miaoying? Seeing this scene, Su Yunqing's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He couldn't help but feel that it was funny that he had thought so much before. After all these years of living together, he already knew what kind of person his master was. There was no need for a slow plan, no need for a secret rescue, no need for careful probing. It was just a matter of showing up at the door to ask for the person. It was up to you to see if you dared to admit it, dare to stop me, and dare to threaten me. This was only because he wanted to protect Su Yunqing's own reputation. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a visit, but a fight. Don't tell me that the matter doesn't exist, don't tell me that she's already gone, and don't even think about using her to threaten me. I'm in the right in this matter, so I'll come looking for you openly. There's no need to beat around the bush. Everything will be done according to reason. It's just that simple. Liang Yuan and Xiao Peng could only pinch their noses and accept it. It wasn't the first time that the great Zhou had planted spies. They played a huge role, but there were naturally many times when they were exposed. Once the spy was exposed, he would naturally have to bear the wrath of the other party. Even if he wasn't executed due to the great Zhou dynasty's strength, he would definitely have his cultivation crippled and expelled. Such a spy had the great Zhou dynasty on him. Even if he wanted to break free from the great Zhou dynasty's control, he wouldn't be able to do so. However, when had he ever seen someone like Xianmen Tianzong who didn't play by the rules? After discovering the spy, he actually stood up for the spy and asked for his family members that were being held hostage. The great Zhou dynasty didn't even pursue the spy, so the spy directly became one of their own. Now that it was Xianmen Tianzong's disciple whose family members were being threatened, it became fair and aboveboard for him to ask for them. His reason was firm, and he had great strength as his backing. Naturally, he would be successful in every endeavor. At this time, Su Yunqing sincerely felt that it was a blessing to have an incomparably powerful sect behind him. To an individual, the sect could stand up for him in matters that seemed impossible. These past few years, the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong felt more and more strongly. It also made their sense of belonging to the sect stronger and stronger. Because of Su Yunqing's personal experience, this feeling was especially profound to him. He, who had always been calm and collected, actually felt a little sore at this moment. At this moment, Liang Yuan's expression was calm. To him, it wasn't that embarrassing. It was just a spy who betrayed them. It was just that the resources he had wasted on Su Yunqing were a little wasted. If Xiao Peng hadn't seen Zhu Yi and couldn't control his emotions, the incident just now wouldn't have happened. There was no point in keeping a hostage who no longer had any value. Handing him over was handing him over. This round was his loss, and he could just plot in the next round. There was no need to care about the gains and losses of a city or a place. After the storm of the instability of the position of Crown Prince, Liang Yuan's temperament had indeed been reborn. Today's matter is just a small matter. There's no need to argue too much. The appearance of the Yingxi's 3 mountains is a big matter. Father and the Grand Preceptor have already made preparations. If Xianmen Tianzong were to bump into them now, they would definitely suffer a great loss. After the Kunlun Dharma Assembly, Liang Yuan, who had returned to Tianjing City and met Liang Pan, knew many things that he didn't know before. At this moment, he was calm and at ease. Zhu Yi sat in the hall with a normal expression. He chatted cheerfully with Liang Yuan as if the previous incident had never happened. However, as he chatted with Liang Yuan, Zhu Yi was also thinking, East Heavenly Gate? I've never heard of this sect. But looking at the name, could it be related to the Heavenly Gate that was destroyed in ancient times? East Heavenly Gate is located in the extreme east. Is the Heavenly Gate revived? Extreme east. That means it's on the Eastern Sea. From the looks of it, we should encounter it in this trip to the East Sea. Zhu Yi smiled slightly. Very good. Before we officially head to the Marquis's residence, let's cut off some of the Marquis's wings first. Chapter 7:15. Handing the matter over to Zhu Yi to handle, Lin Feng no longer paid attention to it, peacefully meditating in a quiet room at the back of the courtyard. Far away on Mount Yujing in the Kunlun Mountains, his original body was sitting at the top of the mysterious heaven treasure tree. A clear light flashed above his head, and the void opened. The earth, water, fire, and wind existed in the void. It was exceptionally stable and not chaotic. Lin Feng looked at the void above his head calmly. A Tai Chi pattern appeared on his forehead and was rotating slowly. As the Tai Chi pattern rotated, the principles of the Great Tao were deduced one after another. Then, they were refined, summarized, and mastered. The Yin and Yang chapter of the Heavenly Tao scripture has not been completely determined. This new remarkable power is between the Yin and Yang chapter and the Four Symbols chapter, so it won't be so easy to deduce. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. However, if I can deduce this remarkable power in reverse, it will be equivalent to building a bridge between the Four Symbols chapter and the Yin and Yang chapter. It will be an important step for me to create the Yin and Yang chapter and reach the second tier of the primordial soul realm. Lin Feng calmed his heart and carefully deduced. Dazzling and profound runes that filled the sky surged out from the Tai Chi diagram and then merged into the earth, water, fire, and wind in the air above his head. There, it was as if an extremely powerful existence was being born. In Zhu Yi's courtyard outside Tianjing City, Lin Feng's iron tree clone was also silently sensing the Tao that came from his original body. It benefited a lot and built a solid foundation for him to reach the primordial soul realm in the future. Lin Feng had two clones. Among them, the God of War clone was created by the system. When Lin Feng was below the primordial soul realm, the God of War clone would improve along with Lin Feng's realm. Furthermore, the God of War clone would be at the peak of the major realm. When Lin Feng's main body was in the Golden Elixir period, his God of War clone was at the peak of the late Golden Elixir period. When Lin Feng's main body had just formed his nascent soul, his God of War clone was at the peak of the late Yuanying period. Although the clone of the divine god of battle mainly focused on martial arts, it could also use the Tao arts of the scripture of heavenly virtue. However, it was not as agile as the main body. Even so, when Lin Feng's cultivation was below the nascent soul realm, the clone of the divine god of battle was more powerful than his main body most of the time. After Lin Feng achieved the primordial spirit stage, although his divine god of battle clone had automatically reached the first layer primordial spirit stage, it was still much weaker than his actual body. On the other hand, the iron tree clone was different. Its cultivation was independent, and its cultivation level was not linked to Lin Feng himself. Naturally, it could not form a primordial spirit as easily as the divine battle clone. However, if the iron tree clone could form a primordial spirit, its strength would be above that of the divine battle clone. In the courtyard, Lin Feng's cyan tree doppelganger let out a long breath and opened his eyes. "Shall we? Come in." Zhu Yi pushed open the door and entered. He bowed to Lin Feng. "Master, the matter has been resolved. Yunsheng's younger sister, Su Miaoying, has been sent here. I have checked, and there are no hidden marks or hidden dangers. Yunsheng is currently accompanying her." Lin Feng smiled. This Su Miaoying should also be a spy nurtured by the Great Zhou Empire, right? Why didn't the Great Zhou Empire use her and Yunsheng to restrain each other? Generally speaking, siblings like Su Yunsheng and Su Miaoying, who depended on each other and were each other's spiritual sustenance, were adopted by the Great Zhou Empire's spy agency since young. When they grew up, they would often be assigned different tasks without knowing each other. This was considered the most valuable use. Zhu Yi smiled. Originally, Yunsheng was only sent to the Great Qin Empire, and Su Miaoying had her own arrangements. However, after Yunsheng joined our sect, Liang Yuan placed great importance on this matter. Therefore, in order to strengthen their control, Su Miaoying has always been under their control. She has not been sent out, and she is usually treated well. No other thoughts were instilled in her? Lin Feng asked indifferently. Back then, Su Yunsheng and his sister were still young. If the great Zhou Empire had specially treated Su Miaoying well, nurtured kinship with a warm and superior environment, or bewitched her with romantic feelings, it was not impossible for her to be unswervingly loyal to the great Zhou Empire, or even take the initiative to supervise her brother Su Yunsheng. This was also one of the methods used by the spy agency. Zhu Yi smiled and shook his head. Su Miaoying and Yunsheng's personalities are very similar. Hearing this, Lin Feng also smiled and shook his head. Forget it. Let the siblings reunite. As for Su Miaoying's future life, let them decide it themselves. If they can pass the Mountain Gate examination, it is fine for them to join our sect. If they can't, they will be settled in Cloud Mirror City. You can arrange the specific matters as you see fit. Zhu Yi nodded. Yes, Master. At this moment, Xiao Yan and the others also came to Lin Feng's meditation room. Once they met, Xiao Yan looked at Zhu Yi and smiled. Second junior brother, that Xiao Gai's other martial arts are sloppy and ordinary, but his escape technique is quite extraordinary. Not bad. Unfortunately, it is not complete. Otherwise, it would not be inferior to the Taishu Temple's Heaven Ascension technique and emptiness circulation. Zhu Yi gave a definite answer. This person claims to be from the Eastern Heavenly Gate, but what relationship does he have with the Eastern Heavenly Gate in the past? Lin Feng smiled. Although the Eastern Heavenly Gate was destroyed at the end of the ancient times, there were still remnants left behind. This Eastern Heavenly Gate should be the sect that developed after inheriting the incomplete orthodoxy of the Eastern Heavenly Gate. The spiritual art that person used just now is called the Roving Jade Heaven's Escape Technique. It is the top escape technique of the Eastern Heavenly Gate in the past. Xiaoyi, you are right. In the ancient times, this Roving Jade Heaven's Escape Technique is indeed not inferior to the top escape techniques of the Taishu Temple's Heaven Ascension Technique, Emptiness Circulation, and Mount Shu's Xiaozi Sword. Although Lin Feng sat in the meditation room and completely handed the matter over to Zhu Yi to handle and did not interfere, he was aware of any movement in the courtyard. Xiao Peng's escape technique naturally fell into his eyes. The true Roving Jade Heaven's escape technique was something that Lin Feng had never seen before. However, this escape technique was too famous and its characteristics were obvious. It used a small world of jade light to protect one's body and forcefully broke through space to roam the heavens. Therefore, Lin Feng was able to recognize it with a single glance. In terms of speed, this escape technique was on the same level as the Taishu Temple's Heaven Ascension Technique and Emptiness Circulation. However, compared to the Heaven Ascension Technique and Emptiness Circulation, this escape technique was even more violent and tyrannical. Even if it encountered the obstruction of space by the other party, it could still forcefully break through and escape. However, Zhu Yi's individual strength was far superior to Xiao Peng's, and the Roving Jade Heaven's escape technique that Xiao Peng practiced was not complete. Therefore, Zhu Yi was able to capture him as easily as an eagle catching a chick. If it's not that this person didn't obtain the Eastern Sky Gate's inheritance, then the Eastern Sky Gate's inheritance of the Heavenly Gate's orthodoxy is also incomplete. Zhu Yi said, speaking of which, I really want to see how graceful the Heavenly Gate's inheritors are. Lin Feng said indifferently, the escape technique is incomplete, but that doesn't mean that the other paths, techniques, and divine abilities are also incomplete. This trip to the East Sea won't disappoint you. Let's not talk about how your father, the Marquis of Xuanji, Zhu Hongguo, is in charge of both the Heavenly Gate and the Grand Emperor. If I'm not wrong, you should be able to see Madame Xiao who caused your mother's death in the East Sea. She's in that Eastern Sky Gate. To be precise, it's that Madame Xiao herself. Zhu Yi's eyes turned slightly cold, his eyebrows knitting together, Madame Xiao. Master, you're saying. Lin Feng waved his hand, gesturing for Zhu Yi, Xiao Yan, and the others to sit down. He then continued, as far as I know, in the Heavenly Gate's supreme scripture, the Great Heavenly Tao, there's a derived divine ability called the Celestial Wondrous Tao. This Tao is said to be a divine ability that only primordial divinity stage powerhouses can cultivate. First, find a magic treasure embryo of high quality and endless potential, then refine a clone with a mortal body. The magic treasure is the heavens, the clone is the human, using the mortal body to refine the primordial divinity treasure, walking the path of the unity of heaven and man. When the divine ability is completely cultivated, the mortal clone and the magic treasure are both taken into one's own body, allowing one to obtain an extremely powerful divine ability and magic power. Moreover, it also has the ability to break through, helping oneself break through to a higher realm of primordial divinity. Apart from raising the realm of the path, one's own magic power and divine ability will also be stronger than normal after advancing. Lin Feng tirelessly explained everything. Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and the others all looked at each other. Master, isn't this too mysterious? Even Yuanying stage cultivators can't refine a magic treasure, yet a mortal refines it. At the end of the day, the person who refines the magic treasure is still the primordial divinity cultivator himself. The mortal clone is also nothing more than a tool to cultivate divine abilities and refine the magic treasure. Lin Feng said with a smile, this is the mystery of the Heavenly Gate divine ability. In history, when this sect was at its peak, it could challenge the Taishu temple of the same generation. How could it be ordinary? The Celestial Wondrous Tao is also nothing more than one of the many divine abilities recorded in the Great Heavenly Tao. Zhu Yi slightly lowered his eyelids, silently saying, that means, Madame Xiao in the house of the Marquis of Xuanji is a mortal clone like this? Lin Feng said, this is only my conjecture, but it shouldn't be wrong. Yang Qing muttered to herself and asked, I wonder how much of the Heavenly Gate's strength this East Heaven Gate possesses. Master, just what level was the Heavenly Gate at its peak back then? Lin Feng said with a smile, it was much more glorious than our sect in the Divine Land right now, suppressing the Great Thunder Temple and Mount Shu Sword sect of the same generation to the point where they couldn't even raise their heads. The sect's power could truly stand up to the entire Taishu temple, causing the last generation emperor, the ruthless emperor, to feel as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. In the end, it was also the humans of the world that deposed and killed the ruthless emperor under the command of the Taishu temple and the Heavenly Gate. It's just that this battle also greatly damaged the Heavenly Gate, causing it to be completely destroyed in the war between the two worlds that immediately erupted afterwards. Lin Feng's voice was a bit faintly discernible. Any sect, no matter how strong they are, there will always be ups and downs, peaks and valleys. The same sect, in different generations, their strength will also be different. Compared to other sects of the same generation, they may not always be able to lead alone. Not counting the orthodoxy of the human emperor, but only the peak of each sect's power. To make a comparison, the Heavenly Gate at its peak can be ranked third in the history of the Divine Land, second only to the Taishu Temple and the Great Thunder Temple, and even better than the primitive devil cult and Mount Shu Sword sect. Xiao Yan and the others showed surprise on their faces. The Great Thunder Temple. Lin Feng chuckled, don't be surprised, back then the ancestors of the Great Thunder Temple really did have a great time. The most prosperous period of this monk temple was when the Buddha opened the mountain and the 10 great disciples preached. Hearing this, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Yang Qing, and Li Yuanfang's hearts thumped at the same time. Xiao Yan swallowed his saliva, and his voice was a little bitter. This may be disrespectful to Senior Dada, but according to what you said, Master, the Great Thunder Temple belongs to the kind that is getting worse year by year? It was at its strongest when it just opened the mountain, and after that, it kept going downhill. Lin Feng's expression was nonchalant, and he nodded and smiled, that's right. Xiao Yan and the others were all silent. They would not really think that Lin Feng was chatting with them, but their own master was giving them advice. Chapter 716. While Xiao Yan and the rest were deep in thought, Lin Feng's voice continued to resound in the quiet room. Taishu Temple's situation is rather special. Because they have the Haotian mirror, they are not inferior to the Great Thunderclap Temple, the Heavenly Gates, the Primordial Demon Cult, and the Mount Shu Sword sect in their heyday. But from the perspective of Taishu Temple, their heyday was still in the ancient times, when the founder of Taishu Temple, the Taishu Taoist, coexisted with the Haotian mirror, and there were many experts in their sect. Lin Feng smiled and said, ever since the Taishu Taoist and the Buddha went to the Dead Sea, there was no news of them. Although Taishu Temple still ruled the world, it was no longer as prosperous as it was in the era of the Taishu Taoist. In the era 4,000 years ago, Taishu Temple gradually regained its heyday. Unfortunately, it encountered Yuhuang Tianhai, who was one of the top experts among the saint emperors of the demon race. In a great battle, Tianhai died, and Taishu Temple's strength was greatly reduced. Seeing Xiao Yan and the rest look over, Lin Feng nodded. That's right. Although the Taishu Temple can still look down on the divine continent now, it has actually declined a lot compared to 4,000 years ago. It's the same for the Great Thunderclap Temple. Ever since the Buddha left and its top 10 disciples died one after another, it was no longer as prosperous as before. The creation magic treasure Mount Meru was shattered by Yuhuang Tianhai 4,000 years ago, and it can be said that the destiny of Buddhism has been completely destroyed. Lin Feng continued, during the era of the human emperor in the ancient times, the Taishu Taoist had the strength to become an emperor, but he did not do so. Instead, he led the Taishu Temple and focused most of his attention on Tianhuang vast land. As for the ancestor of Buddhism, before he founded Buddhism, he was actually the second human emperor of the ancient times after the fall of the Tai Huang. He was known as the Ru Huang. After 10,000 years, the Ru Huang abdicated the throne to his successor and founded the Great Thunderclap Monastery. However, you should already know the current situation. Silently, Xiao Yan and the others digested the ancient secrets Lin Feng had told them. After a while, Xiao Yan smiled brightly, when we go back, we have to tell the boys at home. Zhu Yi, Yang Qing, and Li Yuanfang also smiled. Seeing the situation, Lin Feng also started laughing, his gaze looking towards Xiao Yan. Okay, the things on Xiaoyi's side can already be said to be settled, how are things on your side? After everyone settled down in the courtyard, Zhu Yi invited the great Zhou Crown Prince, Liang Yuan, and the others to deal with Su Yunqing's matter. Like Lin Feng, everyone else rested in their respective rooms. Only Xiao Yan had gone out and had just returned not long ago. Xiao Yan said, I went to the Jing province in the west of Great Zhou. I couldn't find out about the more well-hidden information, but it's not like I didn't gain anything. Looks like the crux of the matter lies with Tang Jun and Lei Jie's father. After the Battle of West Hill City, the Lei clan, one of the four major clans of the Great Qin dynasty, chose to betray the Great Qin dynasty and joined the Great Zhou dynasty. The Great Zhou dynasty, which had forcefully eliminated the local sects and families, also accepted the Lei clan happily. Now, the Lei clan had settled down in the Jing province in the Great Zhou dynasty, resettled, and flourished. The matter that Xiao Yan had gone to investigate was related to the newly accepted disciple of Xianmen Tianzong, Tang Jun, and the leading figure of the Lei clan's new generation, Lei Jia, had at least 70% similar facial features. It was hard to avoid suspecting their relationship at a glance. In addition, the head of the Lei clan, Tang Lai, had personally asked Lin Feng for a favor. If Lin Feng and Xiao Yan still couldn't guess Tang Jun's background, then they could just buy a piece of tofu and kill themselves. The heart-reflecting staircase would only reveal the evil in a person's heart, but it wouldn't barbarically read another person's memories. Thus, Tang Jun had no special goal in becoming Lei Jie's disciple. He had previously concealed his background mostly out of consideration for his own privacy. Later on, when Xiao Yan had openly discussed this matter with him in front of Mount Li, Tang Jun no longer hid anything and told him everything about his background. However, his own knowledge was very limited. According to custom, Tang Jun's name should be Lei Jun. He should be considered a direct descendant of the Lei clan's head, Lei Lai, but in reality, he was surnamed Tang. His father, Tang Wenhua, was a live-in son-in-law who had married into the Lei clan and changed his name to Lei Wenhua. Tang Wenhua and Tang Jun's mother's first child, and he had also been raised as the flesh and blood of the Lei clan. Not long after he was born, he displayed an astonishing talent for cultivation, the 9-chi true thunder body, and cultivated in the Lei clan's lightning attribute Taoist techniques. He was like a proud son bestowed by the heavens to the Lei clan. This person was Tang Jun's older brother, Lei Jie. Unfortunately, although Lei Jie and Tang Jun were blood-related brothers, the paths of their lives were as different as the heavens and the earth. Lei Jie displayed an astonishing talent from a young age, and his reputation soared. If not for the fact that he was suppressed by the even more dazzling dual-pupiled person, Shi Tianyi, he would have been the most outstanding genius of the younger generation of the great Qin dynasty. On the other hand, Tang Jun was extremely mediocre. From a young age, there was nothing special about him. It just so happened that not long after he was born, an embarrassing incident occurred. His father, Tang Wenhua, who had married into the Lei clan, had actually stolen one of the Lei clan's treasures and then disappeared. This incident had absolutely infuriated everyone in the Lei clan, including the head of the clan, Lei Lai. Lei Jie's talent had been astonishing since he was a child, and he had been doted on by everyone. Even when his own father had stirred up a calamity, it had not affected him in the slightest. Or perhaps, Tang Jun, who had just been born at that time, had focused all his resentment on himself, bearing the storm that should have been borne by two people. But for Tang Jun, there had never been any brotherly love or respect between him and Lei Jie. Ever since he was a child, Lei Jie had always viewed Tang Jun as the greatest stain on his name. His greatest taboo was this blood-related brother of his. Tang Jun was well aware of Lei Jie's thoughts. His own existence seemed to constantly remind the Lei clan's proud son that his surname wasn't Lei, but Tang Jun, and that he also had a father who ran away from home. Lei Jie was unfriendly to him, so Tang Jun naturally didn't treat him well either. More than half of Tang Jun's hardships over the years had something to do with Lei Jie. For many people who fawn on the rich and powerful, making things difficult for Tang Jun was the best way to please Lei Jie. Tang Jun was rather stubborn, but he wasn't reckless. After enduring at the bottom of the Lei clan until he had some ability to protect himself, he left the Lei clan and roamed the world by himself at a young age. The Lei clan originally didn't care much about him. As long as Tang Jun didn't proclaim his origins and ruin the Lei clan's reputation, the Lei clan was happy to have such a stain off their name. However, during this period of time when Tang Jun was wandering around alone, his body had suddenly undergone a complete transformation. His mediocre innate bone frame had suddenly transformed into an innate body of fire spirit. It was the rarely seen Azure Flame Emperor's body. It could be said that it was one of the most perfect innate body constitutions for practicing fire elemental Tao techniques. If one were to really think about it, it was even slightly stronger than Lei Jie's 9-chi true thunder body. Although Tang Jun was baffled by this, he was also happy that his hardships were finally over. However, he wasn't interested in returning to the Lei clan. Instead, he had a good impression of Xianmen Tianzong, who had risen to prominence in recent years. So when Xianmen Tianzong opened the mountain gates this time, he came to be apprenticed to him. The changes in Tang Jun were known by the Lei clan. Naturally, the Lei clan hoped to welcome Tang Jun back, but their attitude was a little strange. It didn't seem like they were thirsting for talent, but more like they were trying to catch a fugitive. This attitude made Tang Jun suspicious, and naturally made him feel even more disgusted. According to Tang Jun, the sudden change in his body originated from him finding a former residence of his father, Tang Wenhua. Xiao Yan said, there was a spell formation in the former residence. When others stood on it, there was no reaction. Only when he stood on it, the spell formation suddenly activated, and then his body began to change. But after it was activated once, the spell formation lost its effect. Even if Tang Jun stood on it himself, there would be no reaction. Li Yuanfang nodded and said, this spell formation should only be used to activate it. Tang Jun originally had something special in his body, but it was always in a state of hibernation. Yang Qing pondered and said, this special concealment ability can even deceive a primordial soul cultivator like Lei Lai, the head of the Lei clan. It's really not simple. Xiao Yan said, that's right, so the problem should be with Tang Jun and Lei Jie's father, Tang Wenhua. Unfortunately, this person is now missing, and no one knows where he is. There are no clues. This time, I went to Jingzhou to ask the people inside the Lei clan. I can be sure that the Lei clan is also trying to keep a low profile, but they are searching for traces of Tang Wenhua on a large scale. According to my speculation, they want to capture Tang Jun. On the one hand, it is for Tang Jun, and on the other hand, they probably hope to find clues about Tang Wenhua's whereabouts on Tang Jun. After thinking for a while, Zhu Yi's eyes flickered slightly. He looked at Lin Feng and said, "Master, disciple has a guess." Lin Feng said with a smile, "Xiaoyi, you suspect that not only Tang Jun's Blue Flame Emperor body, but also Lei Jie's 9-Qi True Thunder body is related to Tang Wenhua, right?" "Master, that's exactly what disciple thinks." Zhu Yi nodded and said, "Although the 9-Qi True Thunder body is rare, it is not unique. It is not strange for it to appear. But the Blue Flame Emperor body and the 9-Qi True Thunder body appeared on a pair of brothers at the same time. Such a coincidence is really tempting." Lin Feng smiled and did not say anything. The Lei clan could not be blamed for being anxious. One must know that according to the system, Tang Jun's root bone was as high as 9 points. The Blue Flame Emperor body was an innate aptitude comparable to Yang Qing's yin-yang balanced physique, Zhou Yinsong's blazing yang physique, and Luo Qingwu's pure yin physique. Lei Jie's 9-Qi True Thunder body was also at the same level. If such a physique could be artificially created, the Taishu Temple would go crazy. It was one thing to accumulate resources and improve one's physique, but to be able to create such powerful aptitudes as the Blue Flame Emperor body and the 9-Qi True Thunder body was truly a heaven-defying act. There must be very harsh restrictions. Otherwise, fellow Taoist Tang Wenhua would have ruled over the mortal world a long time ago. But no matter what, he is a very thoughtful person. Lin Feng tapped his fingers on the armrest of his chair. Looking at Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others, he suddenly smiled. "Relax. If I'm not wrong, the crux of the matter is actually not Tang Wenhua." Xiao Yan and the others were slightly stunned and fell into deep thought. After a while, a look of realization appeared on their faces and they nodded. "Master is right. We were wrong just now." Lin Feng smiled and said, "So, on this matter, we'll just wait and see. We'll use silence to react. Right now, the initiative is in our hands." He stood up from his chair and walked out of the house with his hands behind his back. "Go pack up. Since the matter with Yunsheng has been settled, we will officially head to the East Sea to prepare for the appearance of the Yingxi's 3 mountains." Walking out of the room, Lin Feng looked up at the night sky and said, "The great Zhou dynasty's performance is too stable. They look so confident. They must have made many arrangements. What could it be?" Chapter 717. The East Sea was vast and dazzling golden light surged from the surface of the sea. As the sun rose from the east, Lin Feng and the others had already left the land and arrived above the sea. The group sat on Jiayu and Kuei Niu King respectively and flew above the sea. Zhu Yi looked at the sparkling sea and said with a smile, "I've only seen the Arctic ice sea before, but it's a different scenery." Lin Feng said, "The creation of heaven and earth gives birth to thousands of scenes, and each has its own uniqueness." Li Yuanfang lowered his head and looked at Kuei Niu King. "Senior Kuei Niu King, what forces and mighty cultivators are worth paying attention to in the East Sea?" As it's geographically close to the Great Zhou dynasty, it's affected by the Great Zhou dynasty's control. There are very few powerful sects or aristocratic families in the East Sea. However, the East Sea is vast after all, and the Great Zhou dynasty's control over it is definitely weaker than on land. The forces worth paying attention to are the Luofu Immortal Island, which is also the most powerful force in the East Sea. Kuei Niu King paused for a moment before continuing, "I don't know much about the East Heaven Gate. From what I know, the Luofu Immortal Island is the most powerful force in the East Sea. The island master, Dao Master Luofu, is an itinerant cultivator. He reached the third-level Essence Soul realm many years ago and is a rare top-notch figure among itinerant cultivators like Mr. Zhuge Zhan, the father of our successor disciple, Zhuge Wanqiu. He occupied the Luofu Immortal Island to cultivate and did not establish a sect. However, he allowed other cultivators and even mortals to live on the island. Kuei Nyo King added, rumor has it that Tao Master Luofu and the current temple master of the Taishu Temple, Yan Nanlai, have a close personal relationship. Tao Master Luofu is generous and fair. When the cultivators in the East Sea have disputes, they like to submit them to Tao Master Luofu for arbitration. The Great Zhou dynasty has always been very polite to the Luofu Immortal Island. Upon hearing this, Lin Feng looked at the sea and asked, where is the Luofu Immortal Island? The Wild Ox King replied, north of the East Sea, close to the realm passage of the Divine Land and the Infinite Wilderness Land. It's also very close to the entrance of the Ying Sea. It's considered a key transportation point in all directions and also a place where disputes gather. If it wasn't for Tao Venerable Luofu's powerful magical powers, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to occupy that place and protect others. Xiao Yan chuckled. It seems that even if Tao Master Luofu did not join the Great Zhou dynasty, his relationship with the Great Zhou dynasty is not bad. It seems that the Hua clan is guarding the southern border passage for the Great Qin dynasty. Quinyu King said, it should be the latter. The cultivators of the Great Zhou dynasty and the local cultivators of the Eastern Sea had a dispute. If Tao Venerable Luofu encountered them, he could be impartial and fair. No one would object. As long as it's not a big deal, the Great Zhou dynasty would also give Tao Venerable Luofu some face. When the others heard this, they nodded. The third-level Essence Soul realm and the Tao Integration realm was Tao Venerable Luofu's greatest confidence. In this world, there was a limited number of Tao Integration stage powerhouses. For example, the Celeritas Sword Sect, the Thunderbolt Sword Sect, the Lei family, and the Sure family were all dominant forces. However, they didn't have any Tao Integration stage powerhouses. It was indeed more difficult for an expert to appear among itinerant cultivators. It was even more difficult to cultivate to the Tao Integration realm. No matter who it was, they were almighty experts with their own unique strengths. Because most itinerant cultivators lived in seclusion and did not have many battles like the large sects, although the probability of producing an expert was low, the probability of these experts surviving was very high. There were many outstanding figures among the itinerant cultivators. If they established a sect, putting aside their future development, at least their current reputation would not be too weak. It was just that they did not establish a sect due to this or that reason. After all, in today's vast land, many of the existing major sects, the founding masters before their establishment, could also be regarded as rogue cultivators in a sense. However, it was indeed quite difficult for low-level itinerant cultivators to make a name for themselves. It was definitely much harder than the disciples who had the inheritance of the sect to teach them. However, if an itinerant cultivator could make a name for himself, those who formed their core, formed their nascent soul, and even reached the Essence Soul realm would definitely have some skills. The Kuei Ox King continued, other than the Luofu Immortal Island, which has a relatively deep foundation, the other active cultivators in the East Sea are also itinerant cultivators. They each occupy islands with abundant spirit chi or underwater residences in the depths of the sea. They usually do not have much contact with each other. Most of the itinerant cultivators' attitude towards the Great Zhou dynasty is to submit to a certain extent. They obey the orders to a certain extent, but they retain a relatively high degree of independence. There are also some unruly troublemakers who do not approve of the Great Zhou dynasty, but they do not end up well. Zhu Yi asked, what about the Canghai Sword Sect? The Kuei Ox King replied, although the Canghai Sword Sect's mountain gate is south of the sea, this sect has long been in the same boat as the Great Zhou dynasty. In recent years, their energy has mainly been focused on the land. As for the matters in the sea, they only ensure that their own original interests are not harmed. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the East Sea cultivators do not regard the Canghai Sword Sect as a maritime power. Hearing this, Lin Feng smiled slightly. Even if they did not take it to heart in the past, this time they will have to shift their attention back. The Kuei Ox King nodded his big head. Sect Master is right. Jia Yu and the Kuei Ox King carried everyone and flew. After the Kuei Ox King identified the direction, he laughed and said, Sect Master, not far to the east is my old home, Billows Mountain. Lin Feng smiled and asked, Oh. I wonder if there are still people of your clan left on Billows Mountain. Kuei Nyo King replied, In the past, when Master left Lubo Mountain, our clan followed Master to the mainland. However, Master left a medicinal garden on the island. There were some elixirs that were inconvenient to transplant, so he left a few boys to look after them. In addition, besides our Kuei Ox clan, there was another demon clan that followed Master to learn Tao. It was the Sea Spirit Cult clan. We migrated with Master, and the Sea Spirit Cult clan stayed to help Master take care of them. Lin Feng said indifferently, In that case, let's make a trip together. This trip in East Sea can also be considered as a foothold. The Kuei Ox King immediately led the way, and everyone went all the way to the east. Soon, a small island came into view. Lin Feng frowned slightly and asked the Kuei Ox King, Why? Does Dao Master Liubo cultivate the Gui Water in Thunder method? Looking at your cultivation method, it doesn't look like it. The Kuei Ox King was stunned and somewhat confused. After walking forward for a while, he carefully sensed the fluctuation of spiritual energy. Only then did he understand the meaning of Lin Feng's question. His pair of bull eyes suddenly widened, and his gaze was filled with anger. Someone occupied Master's Billows Mountain and even set up a formation around the island, changing the flow of spiritual energy on the island. The Kuei Ox King panted heavily, What is that old seahorse doing? He actually let an outsider occupy Master's Billows Mountain. He was unable to restrain his anger as he rushed towards Lubo Hill. When he got closer, he was already close to the array on the periphery of the island. The red-eyed old bull suddenly calmed down. This array was set up by a primordial spirit-level cultivator. If that's the case, I can't blame the old seahorse. Lin Feng looked at the island calmly and shook his head. This evil guest who occupied the magpie's nest seems to be temporarily out. He is not here. He stretched out his palm and lightly chopped. The outer formation of the island was already broken, but it didn't reveal the slightest trace. Even if the person who set up the formation was connected with the formation, but facing Lin Feng's heavenly barrier, he became deaf and blind. He completely didn't know what happened here. Come, let's go in. Lin Feng said nonchalantly, Clean up the island. We will wait here for that person to come back. Go ahead and do it. Don't worry about startling him and scaring him far away. This person won't know anything. After the island is cleaned up, just wait for him at ease. Lin Feng and the rest came down from the back of the Kuei Ox King and Jiayu. The Kuei Ox King immediately killed his way to the island. Jiayu wanted to perform well in front of Lin Feng, so she followed along. White Light didn't make a move, but also stood by the side to support her husband. In a short while, a scolding that was mixed with shock and anger sounded on the island. Who dares to barge into Venerable Gui Shui's immortal mountain? The other party's magical power surged, but he was also a Yuanying middle-stage cultivator. He flew up from the island, wearing a black robe, and glared at the Kuei Ox King. The Kuei Ox King's voice was like the thunder of the 9 heavens. Venerable Gui Shui. Humph. Back then, you listened to my master's lecture and received my master's guidance. Only then did you achieve the primordial spirit realm. Now you actually occupied my master's Liubo mountain. You are really shameless. In the Kuei Ox King's angry roar, the thunderclouds above his head swayed, and thunderbolts struck towards the other party. When the man saw the Kuei Ox King, he couldn't help but be shocked. It was not that he was afraid of the return of Dao Master Liubo, but he had long heard that the Kuei Ox clan had surrendered to Xianmen Tianzong. Thinking of this, he didn't dare to hesitate anymore. His hands formed a gesture and shouted, Rise. Suddenly, Dozens of demonic aura and magical power rose from the island and poured into his body. The Kue Ox King took a closer look and was even more furious. The source of the demonic aura and magical power was all the clansmen of his former companions, the Sea Spirit Cult clan. Those Sea Spirit cults didn't bend their knees and surrender to the enemy, but were forced to become Tao soldiers by someone using a secret method. At this moment, they had no choice but to form a formation and pour their demonic power into someone else's body. With the support of the demonic aura of a group of Sea Spirit cults, the Yuanying middle stage cultivator's magical powers suddenly increased, and he could even fight against a Yuanying late stage cultivator. But he didn't do this to strengthen his own strength to fight against the Kue Ox King. He shouted, "Take it easy. These Sea Spirit cults have a restriction set by my master. If they are alarmed, it will be difficult to protect them. I don't want to kill them." The Kue Ox King was so angry that he laughed. "Well, you still want to take hostages to threaten me?" The disciple of Tao Master Gue smiled and said, "Kue Ox King, don't be angry. You are now holding on to Xianmen Tianzong's leg. I don't want to fight with you. I just want to fight for a way out for myself." He looked at Jia Yu and White Light not far away and said, "Open a path and let me leave the island. That's my only request." White Light said coldly, "If you escaped at the first moment, you might still have a chance. If there is no deep hatred, we might not chase you to the end. Now that you are playing this trick, could it be that you have a guilty conscience and have done something unforgivable?" The Yuanying middle stage cultivator was slightly stunned. Before he could reply, a demon marshal among the Sea Spirit cults under his control struggled and roared, "Kue Ox King, don't listen to his flowery words. This guy has slaughtered many of our clansmen. His hands are full of blood. Even the boy left behind by Master was killed by him. You talk too much." The Yuanying middle stage cultivator snorted coldly. The Sea Spirit cult's demon marshal who spoke immediately cried out miserably. The cultivator ignored him and simply shed all pretense of cordiality. He looked at the Kue Ox King and said in a deep voice, "Kue Ox King, you saw it. As long as I want, these 64 Sea Spirit cults can't be guaranteed. I don't ask for anything else. I just want a way out. Let me go and don't chase me." Chapter 718. Kue Nyo King glared at him with his pair of big eyes, the thunderclouds above his head rumbled. Obviously he was already angered to the extreme. "Liang Hong, you also followed your master to listen to Tao. Now not only did you seize Master's Lubo Hill, you even killed his boy. I actually didn't see that you are such a cruel and unscrupulous thing." The Yuanying cultivator named Liang Hong was embarrassed by his scolding. He snorted and said, "Since Tao Master Liubo has moved away from this island, why leave such a blessed place empty? It's better for us to occupy it than to waste it. I didn't want Tao Master Liubo's boy to die, but he dared to insult my master. Of course, I have to punish him." In fact, he was complaining in his heart. The reason why Taoist Gue Shui dared to occupy Tao Master Liubo's cave residence was mainly that he had reached the primordial soul realm and had the confidence. Tao Master Liubo had lost contact with him. Who knew where he had fallen? That was why he came to occupy the cave residence. However, Master Gue Shui and Liang Hong were really cold-blooded. If it was just a turtledove occupying a magpie's nest, it would not be a big deal to expel Tao Master Liubo's boy and Sea Spirit cult clan. But they also captured and enslaved a group of Sea Spirit cults, imprisoned them with a secret method, and refined them into their own Tao soldiers. Sea Spirit cult king had to submit to them for the safety of his clansmen. Tao Master Liubo's boy had a strong temperament and sharp words. He annoyed Liang Hong and was killed by Liang Hong. Later, when they heard that Kue Ox clan had joined Xianmen Tianzong, Master Gue Shui and Liang Hong were a little uneasy. But after thinking for a long time, they were reluctant to leave Liubo Mountain, so they tried their best to block the news. After all these years of peace, Master Gue Shui and his disciple gradually relaxed. As a result, Master Gue Shui recently went out and left Liang Hong to look after the house. Unexpectedly, Kuei Ox King came with others. What was worse was that Liang Hong didn't receive any news at all. The guardian formation outside the island also didn't have any reaction. By the time he realized it, Kuei Nyo King was already in front of him. It was too late for him to fake it or escape. To make matters worse, Liang Hong tried to contact his master Gue Shui Zun, but there was no response. The entire Lubo mountain island seemed to be completely isolated from the outside world, which made Liang Hong feel a chill in his heart. Senior Master of Dao Gue was not proficient in escaping methods. Liang Hong was worried that if he simply ran away, Kuei Nyo King and others would chase him all the way after knowing everything from the sea spirit horses on the island. If there were cultivators with fast speed, it would be very difficult for him to escape. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and decided to take hostages to the end. He stared at the one-legged bull king and said, "You have joined the Xianmen Tianzong, so I can't afford to offend you. But if you don't even give me a chance to live, then we will perish together. Your Kuei Ox clan has been on good terms with the Sea Spirit Cult clan for generations, and the Sea Spirit Cult king is even more of a close friend of yours. If I remember correctly, among the 64 Sea Spirit cults below me, there is no lack of children and nephews that you watched grow up. On the other side, the black dragon Jia Yu showed his real body of the dragon clan and turned into a huge black dragon. His voice carried a strong dragon's power, which was much more dignified than the one-legged bull king. Hey, you really don't want your face anymore." Liang Hong braced himself and said, "You also belong to the Xianmen Tianzong? Please make an exception. I only need one way to go. As long as I am safe, I will never touch a finger of these sea spirit cults. At any time, you can't touch a finger of them." At this moment, a calm voice said, and a young scholar in purple appeared beside Jia Yu. It was Zhu Yi. Liang Hong's eyes widened, and there was despair in his eyes. Although the itinerant cultivators of the Eastern Sea were relatively independent, they still paid a lot of attention to the major events in the Divine Land. If there was a new strong figure, they would also ask about it clearly, so that their disciples wouldn't run into them and suffer for nothing. It was not easy to make a jade scroll that recorded the image of a person, and it was very precious. Ordinary itinerant cultivators couldn't get their hands on one, but it was impossible for a Yuanian cultivator like Liang Hong to not have one. Xianmen Tianzong was also the most legendary and powerful force that had risen in recent years. Liang Hong had seen the image of the core figures in the sect before. Naturally, it could not be missing the second direct disciple under Lin Feng, Zhu Yi. More accurately speaking, because the Eastern Sea was adjacent to the Great Zhou dynasty, the most famous person in the Xianmen Tianzong in the Eastern Sea, other than the master of the Celestial Gate, Lin Feng, was the famous Zhu Yi in the Great Zhou dynasty. Without waiting for Liang Hong to continue speaking, Zhu Yi shook his head. Not only is he heartless, but he also bites the hand that feeds him. There is no need to keep such a scum. As he said this, he stretched out his right hand and spread his fingers. Thin black and white lines flew out and quickly formed a huge barrier. The barrier looked like an altar. It looked like a mandala flower, but it was not a mandala flower. Countless bright and dazzling rays of light intertwined with countless dark and deep black lines, forming lines that looked like the orbit of the stars in the sky. Together, they weaved this independent small world. It was Zhu Yi's great light and dark mandala heaven's barrier. The barrier directly covered Liang Hong. Liang Hong was shocked and wanted to use his secret technique, but he found that his connection with the sea spirit horses was completely cut off. At this moment, he was in the great light and dark barrier. Whether he wanted to break through the void to escape or communicate with the spiritual energy of the outside world, he was also cut off. The sea spirit horses on the Lubo mountain were all stunned. Many of them had a strong and unyielding character. This time, they even had the mentality that they would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. But they never thought that Liang Hong would be directly captured by Zhu Yi. Not to mention fighting back, even if he wanted to use his secret technique to kill these sea spirit horses, he couldn't do it. The sea spirit horse demon commander who spoke first looked at Zhu Yi blankly, then looked at Kuei Nyo King. "Nyo King, Who is this senior? Kuei Nyo King said, this is the second disciple of the master of the celestial gate, Zhu Yi Zhu Zhenjun. The group of sea spirit horses seemed to wake up from a dream. They hurriedly went forward to greet Zhu Yi and Jiayu. Until now, their minds were still full of unreal feelings. Just a moment ago, they were still enslaved and had no control over their own life and death. The next moment, they had regained their freedom, which made them feel like they were in a dream. Under the intentional control of Taoist Guo Shui and Liang Hong, these sea spirit horses were abnormally isolated from the news. They didn't know many things, so Kuei Nyo King had to spend some time explaining. After the explanation, Kuei Nyo King asked, what about the old seahorse? The sea spirit horse demon commander said with grief and indignation, my father became the mount of old Taoist Guo Shui for the sake of our clansmen. Wild Bull King was also furious. He and Sea Spirit Stallion King had studied under Dao Master Liubo together in the past and served Dao Master Liubo as their master. They had a good relationship. Wild Bull King knew that although his old friend had a mild temperament, he was tough on the inside. One could imagine how angry he was to be threatened like this. Don't worry, let's wait here for him to come back. Zhu Yi put away the light and darkness boundary that suppressed Liang Hong. Just now, a boundary that simulated the destruction of heaven and earth collapsed. Liang Hong didn't dare to resist anymore and explained everything in detail. According to him, it wouldn't be long before Dao Master Guo Water returned from his trip. Under the effect of Lin Feng's heavenly boundary barrier, everything that happened on Liubo Mountain just now was blocked. Even if Taoist Guo Shui left many restrictions on the island, he couldn't find any clues. Lin Feng, Xiao Yan and others also landed on the island at this time. Lin Feng tiptoed lightly on the ground below and smiled slightly. It's interesting to cultivate the Yin Thunder of Guo Shui, but I don't know if you can cultivate the Black Thunder water. If you succeed, it will be a little interesting. On the other side, Jia Yu and his wife White Light also turned into human form, standing together and talking. Wife, I remember that the domain passageway on the East Sea's side leads to Tianhuang vast land. It seems to be closer to the Violet Sea Dragon King's territory. Jia Yu asked his wife. White Light nodded and replied, indeed so. The Purple Sea Dragon King was also a famous great demon in Infinite Wasteland. The demon clan named the 10 active demon clan great sages as the demon clan 10 sages. The Purple Sea Dragon King was one of them. Together with the Enchantress and Golden Rock Great Sage, they were regarded as the top 3 of the Demon Clan 10 sages. However, it was rumored that the Purple Sea Dragon King had a peaceful temperament and was relatively low-key in handling matters. Compared to the other Demon Clan Great Sages in the Demon Clan 10 sages, he was the most low-key and most unknown one. However, even the Enchantress did not dare to belittle him in the slightest. It was not only because the Purple Sea Dragon King was powerful, but also because the Purple Sea Dragon King was the leader of the Dragon Clan in Infinite Wasteland. He represented the interests of the primordial Sky Dragon race that lived in seclusion in the mysterious sea. The primordial Sky Dragon race was the same as the Phoenix race. Most of the time, they lived in seclusion and rarely participated in the war between the two worlds. However, be it the human cultivation world in the Divine Land or the Demon Clan in Infinite Wasteland, they would not neglect their influence. White Light said softly, the demons that barged into the Divine Land from the Domain Passage on the East Sea and attempted to enter the Ying Sea are mostly subordinates of the Purple Sea Dragon King. There is no lack of dragons among them. There are also other demons that borrowed the path from the Purple Sea Dragon King's territory. The Golden Rock Great Sage and the Purple Sea Dragon King are said to have a close relationship. The demons under him also have many dealings. Jiayu said, Sect Master said that we might have a great opportunity on this trip to the East Sea, could it be? After a moment of silence, White Light said, I am still in the dragon pool of the Taishu Temple after all. Husband, you are also from there. If you encounter the Dragon Clan of Infinite Wasteland, I'm afraid it will be a lot of awkwardness. Let's see what Sect Master Lin has to say then. As he said that, Lin Feng suddenly chuckled, he's here. A space in the distance split open and a black-clothed young man walked out of it. He had a gloomy face, thin lips, a high nose bridge, and a deep wrinkle on both sides of his nose. He was originally calm, but when he saw Lin Feng and the others on the island, his expression suddenly became ugly. That was because the restriction he had left on the island was still intact and had not been disturbed by anyone. The person who came was Venerable Gue Shui, who had occupied the place. He glanced around and his eyes paused slightly on Kue Niu King, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Yang Qing, and Li Yuanfang, and his expression became even uglier. Chapter 719. Liang Hong could recognize Zhu Yi at a glance, and Tao Master Gue Water was no exception. Seeing Kue Niu King with Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi, how could he not understand the situation in front of him? However, after glancing around and not finding Lin Feng, Tao Master Gue Water felt a little relieved. Although Xiao Yan and others had become famous at the moment, Tao Master Gue Water had reached the primordial spirit realm, so he still had the confidence to face them. If it was any other time, he would not want to provoke Xianmen Tianzong, and maybe he would just turn around and leave. But now he was not willing to leave, because a magic weapon that he had painstakingly refined was still on Liubo Mountain. It was the result of many years of hard work, and he could not bear to give it up. For a rogue cultivator, especially a powerful rogue cultivator with a high realm, everyone had their own skills. But in the face of a large sect, in addition to being alone, the biggest disadvantage was that the resources at hand were limited, and it was too difficult to refine a good magic weapon. Tao Master Gue Water occupied the cave of Tao Master Liubo. In fact, at least half of the reason was that he wanted to refine his unfinished magic weapon with the help of the spiritual qi here. Now the magic weapon was not far from completion, and he had completed 99 steps out of 100 steps. He was unwilling to give up, no matter how tough he was. With that talisman in hand, I will take the treasure and leave. Even if the master of Xian's sect gets the news and arrives, he can only look at me and sigh after I hide in Yingxi. Thinking of this, Tao Master Gue Water made up his mind. He did not waste any words, looking at Zhu Yi, Xiao Yan and the rest, without even greeting or asking where his disciple Liang Hong had gone to, he directly pointed his finger and thousands upon thousands of black thunder balls struck down towards Lubo Hill. Each thunder ball contained violent Dharma power, but it did not feel as masculine and grand as the real thunder above the ninth heaven. Instead, it was gloomy and terrifying. The round thunder balls, like big black bubbles, blasted towards Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and others. It was the divine sense of Yin thunder of Gue Water. Seeing this, Xiao Yan's eyes turned cold. Suddenly, a pair of pure golden flame wings spread out from his back. The dancing flames were like golden needles. He rose into the air and transformed into a pure golden flaming vermilion bird that soared into the sky. He punched out and instantly smashed a few balls of Gue Water Yin thunder. The Yin thunder was smashed silently, but the tyrannical power was not inferior to real lightning. It bombarded Xiao Yan. All of a sudden, a treasure light flickered above Xiao Yan's head, and a black token emerged. It flickered with a five-colored radiance and blocked the terrifying power of the Yin thunder. At the same time, the blood and qi in his body suddenly burst out. The golden sun real fire jumped in all the acupoints of his body, dyeing his entire body golden. The next moment, Xiao Yan shook his arms like a vermilion bird flapping its wings. He instantly disappeared in the sky, passed through the terrifying array of thunderballs, and arrived in front of senior priest Gue Shui. Even in the face of an essence soul expert, Xiao Yan was fearless and dared to fight them head-on. Senior priest Gue Shui sneered, and dense black thunderballs appeared around his body to protect him. Xiao Yan also sneered. In an instant, he launched thousands of attacks with his arms, bombarding the thunderballs like a thunderstorm. He broke a Yin thunder with one punch, and instantly destroyed most of the Yin thunder that senior priest Gue Shui used to protect himself. The golden flames in the sky exploded one after another, dyeing half of the world golden, and the vast sea below was also reflected into a pure gold. The smile on senior priest Gue Shui's face disappeared, and he became gloomy again. He looked at Xiao Yan expressionlessly. It is said that this man killed a large number of Yuanying cultivators when he was at the late stage of the golden elixir, including more than one late-stage Yuanying cultivator. He is really extraordinary. With a thought, the Yin lightning that was shattered by Xiao Yan before suddenly all changed shape, joining together and transforming into a black ocean that was like a vast ocean. As soon as Xiao Yan saw this black ocean, he was suddenly alarmed. The blue-black torrent touched the protective light released by the 5 divine badges above his head, and suddenly there was a burst of crackling sound. Xiao Yan scanned it with his divine sense. This blue-purple water was as vast and boundless as the ocean. The sound of the water was not the rumbling sound of water, but the strong sound of electric current. This black ocean turned out to be all composed of violent thunder and lightning. Thunder, the most violent existence in the world, was now transformed into water, the most gentle and long-lasting existence in the world. On Biluo Mountain, Lin Feng looked at this scene and nodded with interest. Sure enough, he has mastered the black Gui thunder water. This is a bit interesting. Xiao Yan, who was surrounded by the black ocean in the sky, was not afraid. With a long roar, a green dragon with black smoke rushed out of his body and wrapped around his body. The black mist green dragon flew up like a mist and kept hovering. Relying on the 5 divine badges to resist the black Gui thunder water, the black mist green dragon took the initiative to attack and devoured the opponent's thunder water. As the green dragon devoured more and more thunder water, its own power became stronger. Venerable Gui Shui's eyelids twitched. He carefully identified the black mist around the green dragon, but it was clearly a strange and overbearing flame. Mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame. Although Venerable Gui Shui lived in the East Sea, he had lived for thousands of years after all. He still knew about the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame, one of the 7 great true fires in the world. But he did not expect that Xiao Yan could even control the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame. Wait, I heard that this person has the Netherworld Evil Flame, the Sun Real Fire, the Pure Yang Real Fire, and the Nanmingli Fire before. Now he even has the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame. How many kinds of true fires does he have? Could it be that all the 7 great true fires in the world have fallen into the hands of Xianmen Tianzong? Venerable Gui Shui felt that his knowledge of thousands of years was being subverted. Let alone 7, even 5 is not right. How could this boy not be burned to death by his own true fire? Although he was surprised, Venerable Gui Shui did not relax his attack at all. Although he had not dealt with the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame, he knew something about it. Seeing his black Gui thunder water being burned by the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame like firewood, he did not retreat but further strengthened his attack. The black lightning ocean that filled the sky engulfed Xiao Yan like a tsunami, covering the sky and covering the earth. If it were an inexperienced or decisive cultivator, he would have hesitated because of the strange characteristics of the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame. But Venerable Gui Shui had a very accurate judgment of the situation. In any case, his primordial spirit was one with heaven and earth, and his supernatural power was more powerful than Xiao Yan's. Although the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame was domineering, the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame that Xiao Yan could control with his cultivation at the middle stage of Yuanying would have a limit. It was impossible for him to swallow all the thunder water of Venerable Gui Shui at once. Venerable Gui Shui wanted to use the huge amount of thunder water to exceed the limit of Xiao Yan's mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame in a certain period of time, thus breaking the defense of the mysterious Sky Tribulation Flame, endangering the 5 divine badges, and finally killing Xiao Yan himself. The thunder water that was swallowed would be regarded as a funeral gift for Xiao Yan. It's just that his decision was fast enough. Xiao Yan was also not slow. 5 divine badges protecting his body, the azure dragon formed by the mysterious heaven tribulation flame opened the way, the vermilion bird formed by the true sun fire merged with his body, turning into a scarlet-red flash, already flying away, leaving the area covered by the black lightning water ocean. Above the sky, Xiao Yan's laughter came. Awesome! Except for my fellow apprentices, I really can't find an opponent in Yuanying stage who can fight me so happily. Xiao Yan's laughter suddenly stopped and he stepped on the air. A milky white pure yang true fire sea spread out from the top of his head. Although it was not as vast as Venerable Gui Shui's black water lightning sea, it was still very powerful. In the white sea of fire, in addition to the vermilion bird and the azure dragon, there were also the white tiger and the black tortoise floating together. It was so thrilling that even Venerable Gui Shui, who had reached the primordial divinity realm, showed a cautious expression. The smile on Xiao Yan's face disappeared, and his eyes became colder. He looked directly at Venerable Gui Shui and said, "However, although you have reached the primordial divinity realm, you are an ungrateful scumbag who returns kindness with ingratitude. It is a disgrace to the world to keep you with this vast world." Venerable Gui Shui looked indifferent, but his eyes turned from Xiao Yan to Zhu Yi, who had been quietly watching the battle on the island and had no intention of taking action. He didn't care much about King Quinyu and White Light. Although Yang Qing and Li Yuanfang were also Lin Feng's pro-disciples, they were still in the Golden Elixir period, so he didn't care about them. Miao Shihao and Jia Yu were at the late Yuanying stage and the late Demon King stage, and their combat effectiveness was extraordinary. He paid a little attention to them, but if there was no Xiao Yan in front of him, he wouldn't take them seriously. But Zhu Yi was different. It was said that his cultivation was similar to Xiao Yan's. If he joined forces with Xiao Yan to besiege him, Venerable Gui Shui had to be careful. Well, there was also a bronze-skinned young man, who also seemed to be at the late Yuanying stage, but he didn't know his specific strength. Just looking at this bronze-skinned young man, Venerable Gui Shui suddenly had a feeling of uneasiness. Thinking of this, Venerable Gui Shui no longer hesitated and immediately pinched a gesture with both hands. On the periphery of the sea area of Billows Mountain, hundreds of huge formations suddenly lit up. The seawater in the formation flew up into the air, turned into a water dragon, and rushed straight into the sky. The terrifying momentum and mighty Dharma power fluctuations made Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and others frown slightly. The formation that used the terrain to trigger the huge power of heaven and earth, especially this kind of well-prepared giant formation to guard home, had always been powerful. Venerable Gui Shui was at the primordial spirit realm. At this time, the power of the formation was quite considerable. Venerable Gui Shui, who had doubts in his heart because the other party could hide from his formation, suddenly saw the bronze-skinned young man in purple raised his hand with a smile and pinched a strange gesture with his 5 fingers. The next moment, clouds of purple gas emerged from the center of the hundreds of formations in the sea, covering the formations all at once. Venerable Gui Shui suddenly felt that the formation he had arranged became extremely jerky and ineffective. His face changed slightly. Not only did he sneak in and hide from me, but he also tampered with the formation I arranged. He was about to regain control of the formation when he saw the bronze-skinned young man gently cut in the air with his right palm like a knife. The next moment, hundreds of small formations, before they had time to form a giant formation, were all silently annihilated. The light of the formation was all dim. Venerable Gui Shui was shocked and felt that the connection between him and the formation was completely cut off. He looked at the bronze-skinned young man in purple in shock. When did such a master appear in Xianmen Tianzong? The person who made the move was naturally Lin Feng's Iron Tree doppelganger. He smiled and looked at Venerable Gui Shui in the sky, but his eyes flickered slightly. It's very strange. This person seems to have a special reliance. What is it? Chapter 720. Lin Feng's appearance was now widely known, not only in the Divine Land, but also in Donghai. Most people had seen the image of light and shadow. The facial features of the doppelganger of the war god were the same as his real body, so it was not difficult to recognize him. But the doppelganger of Tai Shu was different. First, its appearance was different from Lin Feng's, and second, it rarely appeared in front of the world. In the vast land of the Divine Land, large forces such as the Taishu Temple, the Great Zhou Dynasty, the Great Qin Dynasty, and the Mount Shu Sword Sect, or other well-informed forces could more or less get the image of Tai Shu's doppelganger. However, for a rogue cultivator like Senior Taoist Gue Shui, it was too difficult for him to recognize Tai Shu's doppelganger. Exalted Gue Shui stared at Lin Feng. His figure suddenly changed in the sky. He took off his human form and turned into a huge black lightning ball. This black thunder ball was suspended over Lubo Mountain, like a black sun, overlooking the island and the sea below. This was the incarnation of Venerable Gue Shui's primordial spirit. On the black thunder ball transformed by his primordial spirit, a large number of black thunder snakes kept jumping like terrifying electric sparks, but it was gloomy and made no sound. If one were to look closely, they would discover that these lightning snakes were actually streams of black water, and they were all formed by the black thunder water. Even the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong are just Yuanying practitioners. The lightning ball vibrated in the air, instantly tens of thousands of streaks of black Gue lightning blotting out the sky and covering the earth fell down, crisscrossing in the air and transforming into layers upon layers of black lightning giant net, falling down towards Lin Feng, Xiao Yan and the others. Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi both frowned, but Lin Feng waved his hand at them and said with a smile, "This person has some secrets. Leave it to me, lest he runs away." As he said, Lin Feng suddenly released a bright light and rushed into the sky. In the clear light, a huge shadow appeared. It looked like a giant with 4 legs and 8 arms but no head. It also looked like a giant tree, with 4 roots rooted in the ground and 8 thick branches reaching out to the sky. The silhouette gradually became clearer, turning into a towering tree about 150 meters tall. The 4 thick roots below pierced into the void, respectively stabilizing the earth, water, fire, and wind. The 8 gigantic branches above, on the other hand, were the 8 great creation phenomena of heaven, earth, wind, lightning, water, fire, mountain, and lake. Black and white light flickered continuously on this giant tree, but the leaves on the branches remained motionless, like iron plates. A powerful intent domain that could cross thousands of calamities and be indestructible and immortal emanated from it. It was the Dharma form of heaven and earth that Lin Feng's iron tree clone had obtained after cultivating to the late stage of Yuanying. The Dharma form of heaven and earth that soared into the sky directly supported the heavy thunder net that fell from the sky. The gloomy but violent black Gue thunder water kept exploding around the branches and leaves of the giant tree, but it did not even move a single leaf on the giant tree, let alone hurt Lin Feng's Dharma form of heaven and earth. On the contrary, on the 8 branches of the giant tree, the 8 diagrams evolved together and rotated, directly tearing apart the heavy thunder net. In the sky, the black thunder ball transformed by the primordial spirit of Senior Gue Shui trembled. What a fierce Dharma form of heaven and earth! This is not the power that a Yuanying cultivator should have at all. Even the incarnation of a primordial spirit cultivator is rarely so fierce. Although he still did not know the origin of the opponent in front of him, this did not prevent Senior Gue Shui from making a correct judgment. Just the fact that Lin Feng had blocked his means of manipulating the array, in his mind, the threat of Lin Feng immediately rose to a higher position than that of Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi. Lin Feng did not make a move directly, because he could not see through Lin Feng's strength. But now that Lin Feng made a move, Senior Gue Shui immediately felt alarmed. Although he was only an opponent at the late stage of Yuanying, looking at Lin Feng, Senior Gue Shui felt a chill in his heart, and a sense of extreme danger arose in his heart. Although Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi were amazing, Senior Gue Shui still had the confidence to face them. But facing this bronze-skinned young man in purple, Senior Gue Shui clearly felt that the opponent had the ability to threaten his life. This was extremely absurd. A late nascent soul stage cultivator, who had not revealed any powerful magic treasures, was able to make a nascent soul stage cultivator faintly feel the terror of death. For the vast majority of people in the Heaven Yuan world, this was something that toppled their worldview. But Senior Gue Shui really had a strong sense of crisis now. This bronze-skinned young man in purple gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. It was not that Senior Gue Shui was not confident in himself. On the contrary, it was because he had wandered alone for many years and achieved the primordial spirit. His divine soul was agile and his willpower was strong, so he had a keen sense of great danger. What's more, even if this bronze-skinned young man in purple was not so powerful, Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi also joined in, and the magic formation set by Senior Gue Shui could not be activated, so he was indeed in an extremely dangerous situation. Thinking of this, Senior Gue Shui made a prompt decision and turned around to leave. The huge thunderball transformed by his primordial spirit turned into a black light and was about to break the void and escape. He did not want that magic weapon. Nothing could be more important than his life. As long as he was alive, there was hope. But he heard Lin Feng chuckle, and the branches and leaves of the heaven and earth manifestation in the shape of a giant tree shook for the first time since it appeared. The 8 diagrams were all broken and turned into a huge whirlpool. The earth, water, fire, and wind under the tree began to merge and evolve. A powerful aura of a new creation and the beginning of the world was poured into the whirlpool at the top of the tree through the tree. The power of the whirlpool suddenly became stronger and directly fixed the void again. Senior Gue Shui's primordial spirit, which had turned into a black light and escaped, reappeared in the sky and turned back into a black thunderball. The huge black thunderball was forcibly sucked in by the even larger 8 diagrams whirlpool and could not break free. Not only could it not break free, but it was further sucked into the center of the whirlpool. Senior Gue Shui was shocked and activated his own Dharma power, but he could only watch himself continue to slide into the abyss step by step. The sense of crisis in his heart was verified at this moment, and Senior Gue Shui only felt a chill in his heart. The primordial spirit realm was a completely different concept from the one below the primordial spirit realm. It was almost an insurmountable moat. In the entire history of the Tianyuan Great World, was there any case of a person below the primordial spirit realm defeating or even killing a primordial spirit realm expert? The answer was yes, but the number was so few that it was frighteningly rare. All of them were legendary existences. Each time it involved a variety of special factors, which combined to create a miracle that was different and could not be replicated. There was no reference value between each other. In other words, most of the people who completed these miracles might not be able to do it again even if they tried again. But now, seeing that he could not break free from the suppression of the power of Lin Feng's heaven and earth form, Senior Gue Shui was sure that no matter how many times he tried again, as long as he dared to fight with Lin Feng's Iron Tree doppelganger, the result would end in his failure. Perhaps he did not fight at all, but fled immediately before Lin Feng's heaven and earth form appeared. Could he escape? But this idea only made Senior Gue Shui feel a burst of shame. On Liubo Mountain, Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and other Xianmen Tianzong people were fine, but a group of sea spirit cults had been completely dumbfounded. In front of them, a towering tree, like a pillar supporting the sky, fixed the void. A huge vortex appeared at the top of the tree, firmly sucking a huge black thunder ball. At this moment, a small half of the black thunder ball had been completely swallowed by the vortex, leaving only 2/3 outside, constantly struggling and shaking, trying to get out. Countless bolts of black Gue lightning water were stirring incessantly like giant dragons. Any one of these bolts would be able to kill an ordinary nascent soul cultivator, but no matter how one looked at it, it was as if they were at the end of their rope, and they were struggling futilely before death. A primordial spirit expert revealed his primordial spirit incarnation, but he could not defeat the heaven and earth form of a late-stage Yuanian cultivator. Lin Feng did not use formations, magic treasures, or anything else. He just used his own heaven and earth form to fight against Senior Gue Shui's primordial spirit incarnation and suppressed it. Xiaozhen, Jiayu, White Light and Kue Niu King were also shocked, even a doppelganger is so strong. Miao Shihao's eyes were even brighter. TSK, sect master is indeed sect master, but this doppelganger is too ugly. Xiao Yan and the other apprentice brothers looked at each other, a smile appearing on their faces. Master is master. Why are you in a hurry to leave now? Xiao Yan stared at the black thunder ball in the sky and said with a smile, there are only Yuanian cultivators here, and they have achieved primordial spirit. Isn't it too shameful to run away in front of Yuanian cultivators? At this moment, Senior Gue Shui really had an urge to curse. Damn it! How could this be called a Yuanian cultivator? How could this be called a heaven and earth form? Senior Gue Shui was dissatisfied, and so was Lin Feng. Looking at the black thunder ball in the sky being sucked in by the vortex, he slowly shook his head. The Iron Tree doppelganger has enough defense, but not enough attack. It is still a lot worse than the real body. If the real body was at late-stage Yuanying, the heaven and earth form should be able to tear this person's primordial spirit incarnation directly. At this moment, half of the black thunder ball in the sky had been swallowed by the vortex. Senior Gue Shui's roar came from the thunder ball, and the next moment, the thunder ball shook violently. Gue Shui Heavenly Thunder Shock. The thunder ball first shrank, and then rapidly expanded around. This was Senior Gue Shui's desperate use of all his strength. But Lin Feng was not afraid at all. The whirlpool continued to spin, whittling away Grand Empyrean Gue Shui's magic power. One after another, the images of the 8 trigrams gathered together, causing the entire whirlpool to change. It actually gave birth to the power of the realm, about to condense into a real and complete small world. Seeing that he could not escape, Senior Gue Shui gritted his teeth, and a white light suddenly shot out from the black thunderball. There was a talisman in the white light, and the talisman burned quickly, making the white light break the void fixed by Lin Feng's heaven and earth form. The white light turned into a path to the sky, directly penetrating the layers of space, like a special passage. When Lin Feng saw the passage of white light, his eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 721. When Lin Feng saw the white light channel, his eyes lit up. It's really weird. This white light channel directly penetrated the realm and was about to take Venerable Gue Shui away. Lin Feng looked at the end of the white light and saw the other side was sparkling. It was also a sea, but the sea was surrounded by white clouds and mist, which looked illusory and real. Although he hadn't entered Ing Sea in person, Lin Feng quickly recognized that the end of this white light channel led to Ing Sea. No wonder Venerable Gue Shui was not afraid. Ing Sea was the same as the void battlefield called Empty Sea. The situation inside was complicated. Even if a primordial soul realm powerhouse entered it, it would be extremely difficult to find the direction. Even if Lin Feng himself entered it and could guarantee that he wouldn't get lost, it would be quite difficult to find people or things. It's just that he can actually directly open a hole in the void and teleport himself into Ing Sea instead of going through the realm channel that connects Ing Sea and the vast land of the Divine Land. Where did this guy get his talisman? Lin Feng was amazed. At the same time, Lin Feng also had an ominous premonition. I'm afraid, this is not simple. While thinking, Lin Feng didn't slow down at all. Seeing that Venerable Gue Shui was going to escape with the white light, Lin Feng waved his hand and threw out a black and white jade. The jade burst into amazing brilliance in the air. The black and white colors alternated, and the sky was full of light and clouds, as if a sun that blended yin and yang was slowly rising. Countless mysterious runes and figures densely covered the void, shaking the world. The next moment, the endless brilliance turned into a shocking rainbow, as if it was going to split the whole sky into two. In the half-black and half-white brilliance, the sky was full of gods and Buddhas chanting, and the light and shadows of gods and Buddhas turned into substance, standing on the brilliance together as if standing on a bridge across the sky and reaching the other side. As soon as this bridge appeared, it immediately stopped the white light generated by Venerable Gue Shui's talisman, and the void that had been opened before gradually closed. The white light was suppressed by the black and white divine light emitted by Lin Feng's jade. It didn't dissipate, but it couldn't move either. Seeing this scene, Senior Master Gue Shui was dumbfounded. His state of mind, which had been cultivated for many years, was also shaken at this moment, and he couldn't believe it. The moment he lost focus, the power of his primordial spirit incarnation weakened even more. It was completely suppressed by Lin Feng's heaven and earth dharma idol. Xiao Zhen looked at that horrifying black and white light in shock. She turned to Xiao Yan and said, "Brother Xiao Yan, is that?" Xiao Yan nodded. That is the crystallization of Master's divine light of creation. The divine light of creation was blessed by the heavens, but only Lin Feng's main body could activate it. Neither of his clones could use it. However, it was extremely difficult to condense the divine light of creation into a crystal. Even Lin Feng himself only had 3 of them, and he couldn't share them with his disciples even if he wanted to. Although a crystal of divine light was wasted, Lin Feng didn't feel it was a pity. He intuitively felt that the talisman that produced the white light was of great value. After cutting off Senior Master Gue Shui's retreat, Lin Feng began to deal with him. Senior Master Gue Shui, who had lost his retreat, began to fight like a trapped beast. Lin Feng glanced at him with a smile. He turned his palm, and an ethereal and unpredictable ice mist emerged and floated in his palm. Between the mist and illusion, there was a faint flash of dazzling sword light. This was the most precious treasure of the Tianqi sect, second only to the polar sky peak in the past. It was called Ice Soul Cloud, and it was a magical sword. Its body was constantly changing between the 2 forms of ice crystal and water mist. After Chao Wei and Ice and Fire Elders were all captured and suppressed by Lin Feng, this magic treasure also fell into his hands, and finally chose to surrender. Since the white light was already in his hands, Lin Feng didn't waste time with Senior Master Gue Shui, and directly attacked with Ice Soul Cloud. The difficulty of resisting, suppressing, defeating, killing, and capturing alive was completely different. Although the incarnation of Senior Master Gue Shui's primordial spirit could not defeat Lin Feng's law embodiment, it was still a primordial spirit realm, and it was not a trivial matter if it fought with all its strength. Lin Feng suppressing Venerable Gue Shui into a disadvantageous position and even officially defeating him, or beating him until he escapes, or even injuring him, this is one thing, but if Venerable Gue Shui doesn't run away and fights to the death, that is another thing. However, now that Lin Feng had Ice Soul Cloud, the situation was completely different. Although the cultivation of the Iron Tree incarnation at the late Yuanying stage could not fully exert the power of this incarnation-level magic treasure, it was enough. Senior Master Gue Shui watched the black Gue Thunder water manifested by his primordial spirit being frozen into ice step by step, and he felt a chill in his heart. It's a pity that little Lin is not here, otherwise his Shantian God's sealing flag can come in handy. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. He exerted more strength, and Ice Soul Cloud and his Heaven and Earth Law embodiment crushed together, directly destroying the incarnation of Senior Master Gue Shui's primordial spirit. Poor Senior Master Gue Shui, who had cultivated hard for thousands of years, lost everything today. When he was at the Yuanying stage, he once listened to the lecture of Tao Master Liubo, and was helped by Tao Master Liubo to prove his primordial spirit. Later, he took advantage of Tao Master Liubo's absence to kill and rob the cave mansion. Today, he was killed by Lin Feng's Iron Tree incarnation at the late Yuanying stage. However, after his incarnation of primordial spirit was destroyed, Lin Feng kept a trace of his remnant soul for interrogation. Senior Master Gue Shui was extremely depressed. At this time, he suddenly remembered what Lin Feng called himself when he talked to Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and others before taking action. I'm your master. The person who could talk to Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi like this, except for the legendary master of Xianmen Lin Feng, there was no one else. At this moment, Senior Master Gue Shui finally knew that the bronze-skinned young man in purple in front of him turned out to be an incarnation of Lin Feng. After realizing it, for a moment, Senior Master Gue Shui had a feeling that his defeat was not unjust. However, when he thought that Lin Feng's Iron Tree incarnation was only at the late Yuanying stage, he felt that it was extremely absurd. But now that he had fallen into the hands of Lin Feng, everything was beyond his control. Whatever Lin Feng asked him, he answered honestly. Where did you get this talisman? At this moment, Lin Feng had already taken back the Heaven and Earth Law embodiment. He smiled and stared at the white path suppressed by the black and white divine light in the sky, and asked Senior Master Gue Shui. Senior Master Gue Shui's divine soul was controlled, so he could only tell the truth. I secretly submitted to the Great Zhou dynasty before, and this talisman was obtained from the Great Zhou dynasty. He heard that after the Kuei Niu clan submitted to Xianmen Tianzong, he still dared to occupy Billows Mountain. In addition to trying his best to block the news, the more important reason was that he had become a primordial spirit offering of the Great Zhou dynasty. However, due to other considerations, he had not been known to the outside world. In addition to the talisman, he also got other benefits from the Great Zhou dynasty, and the talisman was a life-saving treasure given to him by the Great Zhou dynasty. Before, Senior Master Gue Shui saw that Lin Feng did not come, so he did not retreat immediately, but wanted to take the magic weapon that had not been successfully refined on Billows Mountain. As a result, his greed and unwillingness cost him his whole life. Hearing this, Lin Feng's expression did not change, but he had some guesses in his heart. Besides you, who else in Donghai got such a talisman? Who else has submitted to the Great Zhou dynasty? Lin Feng continued to ask. Over the years, a considerable number of rogue cultivators in Donghai have submitted to the Great Zhou dynasty, but I don't know much. Senior Master Gue Shui said a few names, most of which were cultivators of Yuanying stage, and then added, as far as I know, I am the only one who has this talisman. I think only the cultivators of Primordial Spirit Realm can get it. Lin Feng nodded, did not speak, and meditated. On the side, the Sea Spirit Cult Demon Commander looked at Lin Feng with a face full of reverence. He wanted to speak, but he didn't dare. He quietly moved closer to the Kuei Ox King. Ox King, please help me. Tell the master of the Celestial Sect of Wonders where my father is right now. Sea Spirit Cult King was forced to submit to Senior Master Gue Shui for the safety of his clan, and became the mount of Senior Master Gue Shui. But this time when Senior Master Gue Shui went out, Sea Spirit Cult King was still with him, but when he came back, he disappeared. As soon as Kuei Nyo King woke up, he hurriedly came to Lin Feng, not daring to interrupt Lin Feng's thinking, and waited quietly. Lin Feng heard the words of Sea Spirit Cult Demon Commander. He turned his head to look at Kuei Nyo King, smiled slightly, and then looked at the remnant soul of Senior Master Gue Shui, who was under his control. Did you hear it? Tell me clearly. Senior Master Gue Shui said in a muffled voice, it's still alive, but it has been handed over to the people of Luofu Immortal Island. From them, I exchanged it for treasures to refine my own magic weapons. Now, I don't know whether the Sea Spirit Cult King is alive or dead. Right now, Venerable Gue Shui's remnant soul was captured by Lin Feng. Whatever Lin Feng asked him, he could only answer honestly. Therefore, there was no possibility of him lying. The truth was that he really took the Sea Spirit Stallion King to exchange for treasures with the people of Luofu Immortal Island. Yang Qing pondered and said, Master Luofu's reputation in Donghai has always been good. The people under his command should not be too bad, right? If the Sea Spirit Cult King tells them about what happened in Billows Mountain, won't your scandal be exposed? Senior Master Gue Shui replied, I controlled the Sea Spirit Cult's divine soul and put a restriction spell on it. It fell into a deep sleep. The people of Luofu Immortal Island want a Sea Spirit Cult of Demon King level to take its bones to refine medicine, but it needs to be alive before refining the medicine. In order to avoid trouble, they won't release the restriction spell I put, so they won't know the origin of this Sea Spirit Cult, and they won't know what happened in Billows Mountain. Even if they know, I just need to deceive them for a period of time, refine my magic weapon, and then leave Billows Mountain to hide in Yingxi. The group of Sea Spirit Cults suddenly became furious, and Kuei Nyo King also kept panting, staring at Senior Master Gue Shui. Lin Feng handed the remnant soul of Senior Master Gue Shui to Xiao Yan, and then said to his brothers, his magic weapon, I have already taken it, and I will deal with it later. Now this matter is handed over to you. Go and exchange the Sea Spirit Cult King back, pay attention to the way and wording. Since we have come to Donghai, we can also say hello to the biggest local tyrant here, so as not to be rude. Hearing this, Kuei Nyo King and the Sea Spirit Cults immediately thanked him again and again. Xiao Yan and the others nodded together, and then asked, Master, what about you? Lin Feng flicked his fingers, and the black and white divine light in the air dissipated, and the white light played its role again, breaking the void and going straight to Yingxi. I will go and see where this road leads and what secrets are hidden. After saying this, Lin Feng immediately stepped on the white light path. It seemed that only one person could walk on this road at a time. As soon as Lin Feng stepped on the white light, he was immediately rolled up and taken into the void. Chapter 722. Lin Feng used a creation divine light crystal to stop the white light produced by Venerable Gue Shui's talisman, not only to cut off its way, but also to keep the white light. After the black and white divine light was released, the white light produced by the talisman would play its role again. Lin Feng himself stepped on the white light and was taken to Yingxi, one of the 7 seas of Tianyuan. This white light talisman secret technique seems to be a rather unique receiving technique. Even though it can only teleport in one direction, and it's a one-time use, but to be able to break through the power of realms, it really is extraordinary. Lin Feng pondered in his heart, I only hope that my previous guess was wrong. While thinking, Lin Feng had entered a misty foreign space with the white light. The white light gradually dissipated and was about to disappear, but Lin Feng still didn't let it go. He made a gesture and shouted, "Fix!" Clouds of purple gas gushed out and fixed the white light that had turned into faint light spots again. The white light kept twisting in the purple gas mass, and finally was stained with a layer of purple, turning into a purple light as thin as a needle. The purple light was like a swimming fish, constantly swimming and twisting in the purple gas mass. Lin Feng changed his gesture again, "Guide." The purple light suddenly flew out like an arrow and plunged into a hazy white smoke cloud. Lin Feng immediately followed it, falling behind the purple light arrow and flying over the misty sea. At this time, Lin Feng had the time to carefully look at the environment around him. The sea below looked similar to the East Sea, but the spiritual energy here was richer and more chaotic. The white smoke above the sea filled the whole world. It seemed that the entire Yingxi was filled with such clouds. This huge foreign space was divided into 2 parts by the sea and the smoke. Yingxi and the void battlefield known as the Empty Sea were both famous dangerous places in the Tianyuan world. However, compared with the complicated space turbulence of the void battlefield, the environment in Yingxi looked much more peaceful. However, this was only a superficial phenomenon. At the very least, Lin Feng could be sure that whether it was the ubiquitous white smoke on the surface of the sea or the seemingly calm sea below, there was a huge hidden danger. Lin Feng's divine sense could only explore a very limited area. He didn't dare to go too deep. Once he did, he would be surrounded by illusions. In the yin and yang life and death formation, there was the change of illusion and reality. Lin Feng had mastered the 2 treasures, the Yuanshan ancient skin and the sky illuminating stone, so he was very accomplished in comprehending the change of illusion and reality, far surpassing most people. But even he would get lost in the illusion if he wasn't careful in the Ying Ocean. The Sanctuary Ocean was also known as the Mirage Ocean. After experiencing it for himself today, Lin Feng knew that it lived up to its name. It was no wonder that many Essence Soul Realm experts would die here. The illusory realm here vividly displayed the transformation between reality and illusion. It was said to be an illusory realm, but if one were to really fall into it, then the transformation between reality and illusion, or the transformation between illusion and illusion, or the transformation between illusion and illusion, was extremely normal. The danger and death in the illusory realm could become real at any time. Compared to the violent, chaotic, and unpredictable void battlefield, where the dangers were still on the surface, the dangers lurking in the dark in the Ying Ocean were even more perilous. However, the huge danger was also accompanied by a huge amount of resources and opportunities. Like the void battlefield, there were many unique treasures here. Many treasures that were hard to find in the outside Tianyuan world were produced in an astonishing amount here. Hence, it attracted a large number of cultivators to come here, just like how they came to the void battlefield to hunt for treasures. Unlike the chaotic space in the void battlefield, the Sanctuary Ocean and the Divine Land were very stable. The entrance of the Sanctuary Ocean was also fixed in the center of the East Sea. Hence, the number of cultivators who came here to hunt for treasures was even more than those who entered the void battlefield. Of course, there were also more cultivators who died here. However, there were still many people who flocked to it. Apart from the most mysterious Dead Sea, there were countless legends about the 7 seas of Tianyuan. At the same time, they were also the few richest treasure troves in the Tianyuan world. It was also because of this that the appearance of the three mountains of the sanctuary ocean attracted the attention of the world. If one could completely control them, one could ignore the various dangers in the sanctuary ocean and take whatever treasures they wanted. This was a great temptation for anyone. Lin Feng was no exception. At least in the short amount of time he spent on the road, he had already seen quite a few good things. Among the white clouds, there were a few dazzling lights that flew across the clouds from time to time. Looking closely, they were pieces of white crystals. However, what was unusual was that there was a pair of wings made of flowing lights on each of the white crystals. The wings were flapping gently, making the crystals look like they were alive. The feather crystal was a specialty of the sanctuary ocean. It was unusually agile and was a very good supplementary material for refining magic weapons. In the process of refining a magic weapon, if a cultivator could add a piece of feather crystal, not only would it allow the spirit power of the magic weapon to circulate more agilely, but it would also allow the cultivator to have a closer connection with the magic weapon. With a thought, the magic weapon would be more sensitive and could be used at will. Don't underestimate this point. When two people with similar strength fought, in a situation where everything else was basically the same, this little bit of difference could change the direction of the battle, and even determine the final result. The slightest difference would often lead to a huge difference. However, it was not easy to obtain the feather crystal. Putting aside the fact that this was the sanctuary ocean, there were times when illusions would create fake treasures to lure people. In the end, they would not get their hands on the treasures and would be lost in the environment instead. Even if the feather crystal was real, one would need to be at least a Yuaniing cultivator to catch it. For ordinary cultivators below Yuaniing cultivation level, once they got close, the feather crystal would flap its wings and disappear without a trace, leaving no time for them to react. Such a treasure could no longer be considered a simple weapon. It was close to the category of monsters. Although it did not have its own independent thoughts, it seemed to be one with the vast foreign space of the sanctuary ocean. If a cultivator dared to chase after the flying feather crystal, they might even be led into an illusion by the flying feather crystal. Apart from the feather crystal, when Lin Feng passed by a sea, he saw a faint blue light flashing in the deep water. Lin Feng dived into the water and carefully probed along the way. He saw a dark blue ice crystal condensed at the bottom of the sea, and a piercingly cold air spread out, freezing the water within a radius of 500 kilometers into a white glacier. The mystic ice crystal, dark light meteorite, evil warding purple gold, and other treasures were known as the 6 rare metals in the world. It was one of the best raw materials for ice-type or water-type flying swords and other metal-type magic weapons and magic treasures. Just a little bit of it could greatly increase the quality of the magic weapon. Although the mystic ice crystal here was not a mineral vein, the quantity was considerable. However, just by looking at the numerous illusions of various sizes in the water, one could guess how many people had lost their lives here for the mystic ice crystal. Lin Feng had also carefully avoided many illusions before he finally saw this treasure. However, since he was passing by, Lin Feng naturally would not return empty-handed. Apart from the batch of feather crystal that he had caught on the sea, he also put away the mystic ice crystal. Apart from the feather crystal and the mystic ice crystal, there were other treasures. There were also islands of various sizes scattered on the vast ocean. Some were illusions, while some of the islands were real. There were also many illusions on these real islands. Lin Feng had important matters to attend to, so he did not land on these islands. However, after a rough scan with his divine sense, Lin Feng discovered that although some of the islands were desolate, there were many treasures on some islands. Most of them were precious treasures that were rare in the great heaven primordial world. All of this was not even the tip of the iceberg of the ocean sanctuary's resources. As Lin Feng passed by and collected some treasures, he also followed the purple brilliance. However, after a long journey, the purple brilliance suddenly stopped. It was not because it was forced to stop after exhausting its energy, but because it stopped abruptly. The purple brilliance kept flashing in the space, as if it could no longer determine the direction. Lin Feng slightly furrowed his brows and also stopped, patiently waiting. But the result was disappointing, waiting was futile. After the purple light vibrated in the air for a long time, it suddenly exploded and dispersed, turning into specks of light and dissipating in the air. Not good. Lin Feng sighed. The bad premonition in his heart was being fulfilled step by step. In the next moment, the void in front of him suddenly vibrated violently, and the white clouds were suddenly dyed gold. Amidst the surging golden clouds, a large amount of dazzling light flickered, and the spatial boundaries kept distorting. Lin Feng's pupils abruptly constricted, seeing that within the golden light, an enormous celestial island and mystical mountain appeared. It was a square island that was 5,000 miles long on all four shores. There was an immortal mountain on the island, and there was a large number of light shadows hovering above the immortal mountain. Looking closely, it was the light shadows of many giant dragons gathered together. At the foot of the mountain, there was a dazzling palace, and there were countless spirit herbs and spirit medicine farmed in the vast area. It was like a farmland, but it was not crops, but a large number of spirit herbs. It was difficult to find a single spirit herb in the outside world, but it could be seen everywhere like rice and wheat seedlings. There was a jade spring beside the medicine farm, and the flowing water nourished the fertile soil here. Lin Feng looked at the square immortal mountain and spirit island, and after a while, he let out a long breath. The human heart, the heart of heaven. The Fengzhang immortal mountain of the Yingxi's three mountains indeed lives up to its name. However, he could not feel happy at all, and his mood was slightly solemn. Many of his previous guesses had turned out to be the worst-case scenario. The key to controlling the entire Yingxi, the Fengzhang Immortal Mountain, one of the three mountains of Penglai, Yingzhou, and Fengzhang, that powerful figures in the past had actually fallen into the hands of the great Zhou Empire. The time for the three mountains of Yingxi to appear had not arrived yet, but there was already a storm in the Eastern Sea, and many heroes had gathered. However, no one knew that one of the three mountains, the Fengzhang Immortal Mountain, had already been obtained by the great Zhou Empire the last time the three mountains appeared. Liang Pan, Zhu Honggu, you guys are really calm. You actually didn't leak any information. Lin Feng stared at the continent-like Fengzhang Immortal Mountain before him and shook his head, laughing. No wonder you guys can sit on the fishing platform with such confidence this time. It's not because you're close to the water, but because you don't panic because you have surplus food. Chapter 723. As soon as he saw the Fengzhang Immortal Mountain in front of him, Lin Feng immediately knew that with the birth of the three mountains of the Yingxi this time, it wasn't as simple as the great Zhou dynasty taking the lead. It could almost be said that Liang Pan and Zhu Honggu had already succeeded halfway. Penglai, Yingzhou, and Fengzhang mountains were independent of each other, but they had a mysterious connection. The great Zhou Empire had already obtained Fengzhang Mountain. When Penglai and Yingzhou reappeared, it would be much easier for them to find and control them. This was from the perspective of searching, which involved competing with other forces. The great Zhou Empire occupied Fengzhang Mountain. When Lin Feng and the great Qin Empire faced them, it was like they were swimming in the sea. They didn't even have a small boat, yet they had to face a super-huge ship that rode the wind and waves. If the great Zhou Empire was said to be close to the water in Yinghai and had the advantage of being familiar with the terrain, they were now fighting on their home ground. Liang Pan and Zhu Honggu, the ruler and minister, were now ready. They were just waiting for the two immortal mountains of Penglai and Yingzhou to appear again. Even if they couldn't get Penglai and Yingzhou this time, as long as they firmly controlled Fengzhang Mountain, the great Zhou Empire would be invincible. The other opponents couldn't really control the huge treasure trove of Yinghai, so the great Zhou Empire still had a lot of room to maneuver. Lin Feng clicked his tongue and shook his head in admiration. This is really unexpected. You flatter me, Mystic Gate Master. I'm also very surprised that you were able to find this place. A voice came from the Golden Palace on the vast Fengzhang Mountain. It belonged to Emperor Zhou, Liang Pan. In the main hall, a middle-aged man sat upright. His facial features were similar to Emperor Zhou's Liang Pan, but his temperament was completely different. He was dressed in Daoist robes and looked like an ordinary cultivator. He did not have the noble air of an emperor who ruled over the world. This was not his original body, but like Lin Feng, it was a clone holding down the fort on Mount Fangzhang. However, Lin Feng had no intention of underestimating him in the slightest. Putting aside the fact that he was also a clone here, the fact that Liang Pan was currently overseeing Mount Fangzhang was enough to warrant his attention. Lin Feng would not forget how he had driven Mount Yujing in the past when he had yet to become a nascent soul. Although he did not know whether the Fangzhang immortal mountain in front of him was stronger or weaker than his own Mount Yujing, Lin Feng had no interest in using his iron tree clone to shake such a large fortress. Lin Feng placed his hands behind his back and sized up Fangzhang immortal mountain. After a while, he suddenly laughed. It seems like this immortal mountain is indeed extraordinary. It must have been quite some time since it fell into fellow Taoist Liang's hands, right? He doesn't seem to have complete control over it either. Liang Pan looked at Lin Feng and smiled calmly. He did not deny it. Controlling the immortal mountain is not a problem. However, there are some hidden areas on the mountain that will take time to explore. Being entangled with mundane matters, I only have a clone stationed on this mountain. The progress of my exploration is indeed a bit slow. I've made a fool of myself in front of the master of the mystic gate. Lin Feng raised his eyes to look at the golden light that filled the sky. Silently, he said, "Does fellow Taoist Liang want to leave my clone here for good?" The moment Mount Fangzhang appeared, Lin Feng realized that something was wrong. He was astonishingly suppressed by the spiritual power of the immortal mountain of Fangzhang. Wherever the golden light reached, the boundaries were completely cut off. Not only could he not use his transcendence energy to transmit his voice, even the connection between the Iron Tree doppelganger and his real body had been severed. Although the Iron Tree clone could still move freely at this moment, it was completely unable to communicate telepathically with the main body on Mount Kunlun. The main body could only suddenly sense that the connection had been cut off, but it did not know the specific situation here. Lin Feng did not panic. Liang Pan was overseeing Mount Fangzhang, so it was not strange for him to have the ability to do this. Lin Feng himself had used the same method on Mount Yujing. But this way, if the Iron Tree clone died here, or was suppressed and captured, the news that the Great Zhou dynasty controlled Mount Fangzhang would still not leak out. Liang Pan smiled and said, "We and the Great Zhou dynasty have been planning for this day for a long time. We have no choice but to deal with it carefully. We can only trouble Sect Master Lin to temporarily stay on this mountain for a few days." Lin Feng smiled and said, "You have already obtained Mount Fangzhang. You are far ahead of me and the others, yet you are still so cautious." Liang Pan shook his head and also smiled. "The closer I am to success, the more cautious I should be in handling things." He stood up and paced around the palace slowly. This Fangzhang Immortal Mountain is not like Sect Master Lin's Jade Capital Mountain, which can move the void at will. Although it can also float in the Ying Sea, it cannot leave it. However, there are many wonderful things about it. We invite Sect Master Lin to stay and slowly evaluate it together. With that, Liang Pan did not waste any more words. With a thought, the entire Mount Fangzhang shook, and then it pressed down towards Lin Feng. The enormous immortal mountain was like a continent, but it was abnormally fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already arrived above Lin Feng's head. Golden light shone, clouds swirled, and endless light and runes flickered in the space. Seeing this, Lin Feng could not help but laugh. What goes around comes around. In the past, I was always the one using Mount Yujing to hit others, but this time, it's someone else's turn to hit me with an immortal mountain. Although they were separated by layers of magical power seals, Liang Pan had no intention of hiding it. Lin Feng could clearly see that his clone controlling Mount Fangzhang was also at the first tier of the primordial soul transformation realm. However, at this moment, Liang Pan had no intention of fighting Lin Feng alone, even though Lin Feng's Iron Tree clone was only at the advanced Yuanying realm. It was not that he was afraid of battle, but Liang Pan wanted to get rid of Lin Feng's Iron Tree clone in the shortest time possible, and then control Mount Fangzhang to hide again. He did not want to waste a single second. Although he had cut off the connection between Lin Feng's main body and clone, so that Lin Feng's main body on Mount Yujing in the Kunlun Mountains could not understand the situation here, Lin Feng could definitely clearly feel that the connection between him and the Iron Tree clone had been cut off. If Lin Feng's main body rushed to the Yingxi to investigate, Liang Pan would not be afraid, but he did not want to complicate things. Moreover, there were other cultivators active in the Yingxi. Although Liang Pan could feel that there was no one nearby, if this dragged on for too long and someone found them, the situation of Mount Fangzhang would inevitably be exposed. Liang Pan's actions were also within Lin Feng's expectations. If it were him, he would have handled it in the same way. However, this did not mean that Lin Feng would wait helplessly for death. A clear light surged on top of the Iron Tree clone's head, and a 1,500-meter-tall heaven and earth Dharma idol appeared. Although it also looked like a towering tree, compared to Mount Fangzhang, its size was really negligible. However, the heaven and earth Dharma idol's 8 tree trunks and 8 trigrams appeared together, converging into a huge vortex. Immediately after, the vortex turned into a light shield, connecting the heaven and earth Dharma idol and enveloping Lin Feng himself. An immortal and eternal power concept spread out. The light shield, which was already overflowing with colorful light, was suffused with a layer of graceful radiance. It was the eternal radiance magic power that Lin Feng had learned from the immortal Dragon City, which was also integrated into his Iron Tree clone's heaven and earth Dharma idol. With the support of the 8 trigrams and 4 images of creation, the Shura Iron Tree's indestructibility, and the everlasting eternal radiance, at this time, Lin Feng's Iron Tree clone could be considered to have pushed its defense to the extreme. However, facing the terrifying Mount Fangzhang, it was still like an egg under a mountain, in imminent danger. With just the first contact, the light shield on Lin Feng's heaven and earth Dharma idol shook violently, and densely packed cracks appeared. It was as if the power of a grand world was pressing down, and the surrounding vital qi collapsed together. Even the void was collapsing. At this moment, Lin Feng was facing the pressure from the immortal mountain, and his expression was slightly solemn. Slowly, he nodded. It can already match the impact force of Mount Yujing when I was in the middle stage of Yuanying. At this moment, Liang Pan's clone, who was controlling Mount Fangzhang, had a primordial soul cultivation. From this, it could be seen that Mount Fangzhang was at least a lot inferior to Mount Yujing in terms of pure power. However, thinking of the combination of Penglai, Yingzhou, and Fangzhang, the entire Ying Ocean was turned upside down. Such a terrifying power of the universe was not something that Mount Fangzhang alone could compare to. The Grand Emperor was a well-known figure among the past human emperors. In the past, when faced with the riots in the entire Ying Ocean, he had no choice but to be careful. After hearing the news that the demon realm had started a war between the two realms, he was forced to retreat from Ying Ocean. In his haste, he had even been injured. After testing out the general power of Mount Fangzhang, Lin Feng no longer resisted it head-on. He directly crushed the second creation divine light crystal in his bosom. The black and white divine light appeared again, shaking the surroundings. Even the huge Mount Fangzhang above his head shook a little. The creation divine light Lin Feng released seemed to connect the heavens and the earth, forming a divine bridge in the heavens. It forcibly held back the continent like Mount Fangzhang, preventing it from continuing to descend. Lin Feng's heaven and earth Dharma idol immediately used a technique to shatter heaven and earth, destroying the void in front of him where golden light had gathered, turning it into endless surging and chaotic earth, water, fire, and wind. After breaking through the seal of Mount Fangzhang on the void, Lin Feng quickly prepared to leave. At this moment, Liang Pan's calm voice came from Mount Fangzhang, Heavenly Heart Dragon's refining realm great immortal technique. The coiling dragon shadows above Mount Fangzhang crisscrossed and roared together, stirring up the surroundings and making Mount Fangzhang even more terrifying. The dragon shadows that had originally gathered dispersed, gathering into rings and circling non-stop. They formed rings after rings of light, locking the void in place. The entire void surrounding Mount Fangzhang was surrounded by layers of dazzling rings of light. They flowed and flickered non-stop, preventing Lin Feng from escaping. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. Then, he saw Mount Fangzhang continue to press down, and his black and white divine light gradually thinned. After all, this was not the creation divine light activated by his main body, but by the crystal. There was a limit to its power, and it would be consumed completely. Once the creation divine light disappeared, Mount Fangzhang would definitely press down again. Although Lin Feng still had a creation divine light crystal, at this moment, a heavy voice suddenly rang out in the space, "Master of the Celestial Gate of Wonders, stay here as a guest, even though you're an uninvited guest." Zhu Hongguo, wearing a purple gold crown and luxurious robes, tore through the void and appeared below Mount Fangzhang. He was even lower than Lin Feng, and he raised his head to look at Lin Feng, but his gaze was filled with a sense of condescension. Zhu Hongguo did not give off any aura, but it contained a terrifying feeling that was in no way inferior to Mount Fangzhang. Silently, he said, "Although it's just a clone, having you witness the great Zhou dynasty obtaining the 3 mountains and controlling the Ying Sea is also a wonderful thing." Chapter 724. With Mount Fangzhang above and Zhu Hongguo below, Lin Feng was caught in the middle. For a moment, he felt as though there was no way out. However, Lin Feng did not panic. Instead, he lowered his head and looked at Zhu Hongguo, smiling, "Even though the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain has fallen into your hands and you guys have the upper hand in this battle of the Ocean of Seas, it's still a little too early to say that the great Zhou dynasty has victory in their grasp." Silently, Zhu Hongguo said, "The tide of history and the heavenly Tao cannot be stopped by an individual. The glory that belongs to the great Zhou dynasty cannot be bathed in by others." Lin Feng chuckled. "Unfortunately, this glory may not belong to the great Zhou dynasty. The great Zhou dynasty can only bathe in the sunlight that belongs to it. The glory of others is also something that the great Zhou dynasty cannot look directly at." Zhu Hongwu's expression did not change at all. He stepped into the air and walked towards Lin Feng. "There's no point in talking too much. Let's just wait and see. However, this clone of yours can forget about leaving Mount Fangsuan today." With every step he took, his aura increased slightly. It was as though a demon had descended into the human world. The space above his head distorted violently. Zhu Hongwu's aura increased wildly. However, it did not explode with blazing qi and blood like ordinary martial adepts. His body was still like an ordinary person, but the fist intent he condensed turned into an illusion in the space above his head. There were layers of space, as though there were countless worlds. In each world, there seemed to be a deity sitting and chanting. The countless worlds gathered together to form a wheel. Slowly, it rotated above Zhu Hongwu's head as though it contained a terrifying power that could crush the heavens. Lin Feng looked at him and shook his head calmly. "Mount Fangsuan, I will definitely come again in the future. I'm afraid that when that time comes, you may not welcome me. As for today, I have to take my leave." As Lin Feng spoke, he held up a piece of jade in his palm. However, it was not his last divine light of creation. It was a crystal-clear, ordinary-looking piece of jade the size of a goose egg. Silently, it landed in Lin Feng's palm. But when Zhu Hongguo and Liang Pan on the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain saw this piece of jade, their hearts skipped a beat. They didn't know what it was, but their instincts told them that they couldn't let Lin Feng activate its power. Zhu Hongwu's body moved, and with a single step, he was even faster than the shadow of light. He had already appeared in front of Lin Feng, and the instantaneous explosive power of a martial adept was pushed to the extreme. He attacked Lin Feng even faster than the immortal mountain of Fangsuan. He punched out, and his fist intent condensed into a solid form, as if all the heavens and realms were blasted towards Lin Feng. Meanwhile, the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain above Lin Feng's head had already come crashing down. This time, not only did the dragon silhouette above the immortal mountain transform into a magic to freeze the void, even the great hall that Liang Pan was in exploded with dazzling light. The radiance of the great hall expanded rapidly, enveloping the entire square-shaped immortal mountain. It caused the golden radiance that had originally covered the surroundings of the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain to suddenly dim, turning into a dark gold color. Heaven Heart Abbot Profound Light. The moment the dark gold light appeared, the aura of the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain became even more terrifying. The heavenly might was like the sea, difficult to fathom. Wherever the dark gold light shone on, whether it was tangible matter or intangible void, everything would be solidified and turned into dust. It was a ghastly sight. Zhu Hongwu and Liang Pan were already fast enough, especially Zhu Hongwu, who was like a bolt of lightning. In less than an instant, he had already appeared in front of Lin Feng. His speed was even faster than a Shushan great sword cultivator of the same level of cultivation wielding a lesser tier sword. Such speed completely surpassed the reaction time of Lin Feng's Yuanying late-stage Tai Shu doppelganger's spiritual will. The doppelganger did not even have the time to think before Zhu Hongwu's fist had already arrived in front of him. But unfortunately, Lin Feng did not need to wait until now to think. From the moment he brought up that sparkling and translucent jade stone, the result of everything had already been decided. An invisible wave of spiritual power had already spread out. There was no light, no aura, no sound, as if it had never happened before. However, the void where Lin Feng was had already opened up. The Heavenheart Abbot profound light of the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain did not work. The Heavenheart Dragon refining realm great immortal technique that covered the void did not work. Zhu Hongwu's fist intent, which could turn the entire world and seal everything in front of him, did not work either. Without a sound, Lin Feng disappeared from this side of the world, leaving only a huge hole where he had been. Sensing the turbulent domain power within, Zhu Hongwu's usually calm face, as if everything was under his control, also showed a look of shock. In the palace on the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain, Emperor Zhou's Liang Pan's expression was also slightly surprised. With some seriousness, he said, he actually opened up a domain passageway. This is the Yingxi, not the void battlefield that is filled with spatial turbulence. This clone of his is only at the late-stage Yuanying cultivation level. How did he do it? It was one thing to break through the void and travel within a world, or an alternate dimension like the Yingxi, but it was another thing to break through a domain passageway between two worlds. Apart from the chaotic and complicated space of the void battlefield, it was extremely difficult to travel between other domains. Moreover, Lin Feng had managed to break through the blockade of the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain and Zhu Hongwu. Be it Zhu Hongwu's fist intent or the power of the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain's mystique, they had completely sealed off the space in this side of the world. Even a third-tier primordial soul almighty expert would not be able to leave so easily. Zhu Hongwu retracted his fist and moved his fingers. And it's not as simple as opening a domain passageway. The moment the passageway appeared, he went straight to the other end of the passageway. I can still catch up to his clone and kill him, but I won't be able to stop him from sending the message in time. With Zhu Hongwu's speed, he was like lightning in the void. In less than a second, he could pass through the domain passageway and reach the other end of the passageway, catching up to Lin Feng's sintered tree clone. But in the time it took to snap a finger, it was enough for Lin Feng's sintered tree clone to communicate with his original body on Yujing Mountain. Apart from venting his anger, there was no longer any meaning in chasing after him. The news that the great Zhou Empire had obtained the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain could no longer be concealed. Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu looked at the gradually closing domain passageway in front of them and fell silent for a moment. Although the Liang Pan on the mountain was only a clone, he was still at the first tier of the primordial soul realm. Moreover, Zhu Hongwu was here with his original body. The combined strength of the two of them, plus the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain, had not been able to stop Lin Feng's late Yuanying clone. Furthermore, he had not been injured at all. For the two of them, this was a shocking humiliation that was difficult to wash away. If the Qin dynasty's Stonefeather, Shizong Yue, and Lord Changel were to find out about this, they would probably laugh their heads off. Even though Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu's state of mind and willpower were rather tough, at this moment, they still felt a sense of unhappiness. Apart from unhappiness and depression, there was also a trace of doubt in their hearts. Just what is the jade that the master of the Taoist sect used? Apart from piercing through the world barrier, is there any other use? Are there any restrictions? Hongwu, now that things have come to this, there is no need to pursue. With this change, we should carefully plan our plan. Liang Pan quickly adjusted his state of mind and said to Zhu Hongguo, who had landed on the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain. For experts like them, their state of mind would not easily be affected, but once this feeling of unhappiness arose, it was very difficult to eliminate. In the long run, it might even turn into a mental obstacle. However, Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu's expressions had already returned to normal. It was not that they did not care, but that they had buried this seed deep in their hearts. In the future, it would naturally take root and sprout, but it would be within their control. When they found the opportunity to relieve the resentment of today at Lin Feng's place, it would instead make their state of mind even more complete, and their willpower would rise to a higher level. Zhu Hongwu said respectfully, "Fortunately, your Majesty has already predicted this rather bad situation and prepared for a rainy day. Now that the secret of the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain has been exposed, although it has increased the difficulty of our great Zhou's plan, there is a countermeasure. I will arrange it right away." Liang Pan nodded slightly and looked into the void. The master of the celestial sect of wonders is indeed the biggest variable. Amidst the rumbling, the huge Fangzhang Immortal Mountain flashed with golden light and once again disappeared into the thick fog above the Ying Ocean, disappearing without a trace. On the other side, Lin Feng had left the Ying Ocean and returned to the East Sea. Piercing through the realm passageway allowed him to leave the foreign space of the Ying Ocean and return to the vast thousand world of the Divine Land. Lin Feng turned to look at the gradually disappearing realm passageway behind him and shook his head, laughing. As expected, it's still not stable. He weighed the sparkling and translucent jade in his hand. The system's products are truly exquisite and deceptive at the same time. This jade was called the boundary-breaking stone, and it was the special reward that Lin Feng had received from the system's main storyline mission after completing the prestige main storyline mission. Previously, Lin Feng had only used it experimentally, and this time, it had been brought to the East Sea by his Iron Tree clone. Its true use had yet to be displayed, but it was rather convenient for escaping. He was rather satisfied with its effects. Without this item, his main body, which was cultivating on Jade Capital Mountain, would have had to stop cultivating and rush over. "Ha, Liang Pan, Zhu Hongwu, you guys didn't chase after me because you wanted to leave it for later. Isn't it the same for me to settle the score with you guys?" Lin Feng smiled nonchalantly. "Don't be fooled by today's fun. Sooner or later, I'll have to draw up a list. This day is coming very soon. Moreover." Lin Feng smiled and opened his palm. A dark golden light flickered faintly in his palm and was imprisoned in a purple mass of air. It was the Heaven's Heart Fangzhang mysterious light that he had obtained from the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain. Lin Feng carefully analyzed the concept of the power within, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. This is just the beginning. Since the other party did not continue to chase after him, Lin Feng did not care about them for now. Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu valued the Ying Ocean's 3 mountains more, so did Lin Feng. Speaking of which, the items I brought over this time are all very useful. As he thought about this, after Lin Feng put away the boundary-breaking stone, he took out another item. It was a translucent pearl, and golden fog surged within it. Within the golden fog, there was a faint purple splendor shining. It was the treasure that Lin Feng had obtained previously, the heavenly scarlet golden pearl. Just now in the Ying Ocean, the heavenly scarlet golden pearl had acted strangely twice. The purple splendor within the golden pearl shone intensely, dyeing the entire pearl purple. One of them was when the Fangzhang Immortal Mountain had appeared. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.